Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the MinMax Show, a place about games, friends, and getting better. We're still here, thanks to you. I'm Ben Hansen, and I'm also joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hello.
Joined by Jacob Geller.
Ben, can you stall? I'm finishing a level of Boar Blaster.
Dude, we were talking about it in the free show. Frickin' Boar Blasters. We talked about it on the podcast a while ago. Is it offensive, Jacob, to call it the dumbest game imaginable yet very good?
I mean, we all played Vampire Survivors. We know that dumb games are back in style.
Is it? I don't remember the peak of Vampire Survivors discussions. Did people just outright call it a dumb game last year?
No.
It was
brilliant.
I feel like it was kind of softer than that, but Boar Blasters, it does feel like it's just boring a drill through your skull, but it's still satisfying.
To hit the pleasure centers of your brain.
Only like drills can.
And I thought you weren't like a big Vampire Survivors guy. Like that wasn't a game that was a big one for you.
It never clicked with me in a big way. No, it's
but
like
Boar Blasters is doing it for you?
Boar Blasters, yeah. I like Boar Blasters more than Vampire Survivors. Also joined by Michael Huber.
Yo, sometimes you need just a little bit of dopamine.
Yeah. What do you have a go-to dopamine game?
Rogue Legacy 2.
Oh, Rogue Legacy 2. Okay. You don't have to think too hard. It's going to be interesting enough. You playing that on a Steam
My
Deck?
dopamine games are like a breeze. Like Rogue Legacy is hard, but like I could beat Mega Man X with like, with both my eyes closed, and that's like that's comfortable.
Yeah. I feel like in Rogue Legacy 2, if I die though, it's like fine. Then I can just like level some stuff up. Everything's good. Do it again.
Yep. Hey, this is going to be a packed episode of the podcast. We're talking about more than Boar Blasters, everybody. We're going to be talking about Stellar Blade. We're talking about Sandland. And not only are we talking about these things, but we're also rotating through. So Leo and Janet are going to be swinging by later. We're talking about Rusty's retirement. Talking about a game called Stitch. Another Crab's Treasure, which I was curious about this game, Huber, and then I did a little poll to see what people were most excited about us talking about on this podcast, and Another Crab's Treasure is like top of the heap. And I was like, oh, Jesus. All right, there's more hype for this than I thought. We're going to talk a little bit about Fallout 76 with Leo, Tales of Zero Zao with Janet, Topspin 2K25, if you all can handle how cool it is for me to talk about a tennis game for a bit. And then back half of the podcast here, we have some great questions from the MinMax community. But Lord Jacob Geller, as you insist on being called, you are here. You are gracing us with your presence for a mere trifle of times, if that's the correct usage of that word, to talk about Stellar Blade. But to be fair, before we even speak, Huber and Kyle, you also played Stellar Blade?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay.
I think I'm like 60% or something, maybe. I don't know, maybe 70.
Nice. Huber, do you have a rough sense of?
Same probably.
Okay, and then Jacob, where are you at with Stellar Blade?
I have beaten it. I have rolled credits.
Yeah. Okay, this...
and I will say, first off, longer than you think.
Oh, what are we talking?
24 hours was my total time. And I play games pretty quickly.
That's interesting. So the pitch we talked about it before is like, oh, this is the game, stylish action, feels a little bit near Automata. And now that you've played the entire thing, where are you pegging this genre at?
It is more... I was kind of on the front of being like, it's not a Souls-like, it just has kind of bonfires. We don't need to call it a Souls-like. By the end, I was like, this is closer to Sekiro than it is to something like Bayonetta. Like, it turns into a game where you have to memorize long strings of attacks and parry them very precisely, which I was psyched about. But it's definitely a little different than how it comes off with its, cool, stylish main character and like flippy action.
Yeah, this is the PS5 exclusive, if you don't recall it. But how is it?
It's good, and that's kind of where I'm landing. It is pretty inconsistent. There are parts that I like. The best parts of this game I am red hot on, and then there's a lot of stuff that I think maybe reveals the team's inexperience a little more. If anything, it really made me have even more respect for something like Lies of P, because you realize that doing this thing is really hard, and like FromSoft is so good at it that you kind of forget how hard it is to like dial in attack animations perfectly to be like, easily readable and whatever. So like I have nitpicks. I think that some of the game structure gets weird. And most importantly, on the negative side, the characters are unforgivably boring.
Oh, good.
But that being said, the environments are great. It's a very cool looking game. It's a great sounding game. The music is cool. And when it hits, as it often does with its big bosses, it really gets going.
Oh, that's sweet. Huber, I saw your heart melt when Lies of P was brought up.
Oh, I've been thinking about Lies of P when I was playing this, actually. Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah? What do you think about Stellar Blade so far?
I love this game. I love it so much. And I think it's just the combat. The combat is so much fun. And I'm surprised by the variety of the enemies, not only like in how they look, but just kind of their attacks. Like I find myself using like semi-different strategies for a lot of the bosses and stuff. I mean, it still comes down to like parry, dodge, attack. But there's just like a lot of little gear things you can swap out to focus on other things. Like if you want to focus on combos or focus on range, I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I think the combat is just super fun in this game.
Yeah, but hard.
Pretty hard, but forgiving, because when you die, everything is chill. You just run it back. You run it back. You don't have to worry about like dying and then getting back to where you were to get your lost souls. But then if you die on the way there, like there's none of that. It's just like if you die, you just respawn. Nothing is lost. You're right there. Super forgiving in that sense.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's like they have those bonfires, but they're also not shy about just like if you're fighting a boss, they'll just put you back in front of the boss. Like there are almost no kind of run backs the way there are in Souls games. I will say I think it's like a nice kind of moderate level of challenge for most of the game, and in the last 5 hours it really spikes in a way that I was happy about. But like I think I tweeted this morning, I think some people are going to run into a wall with this game because you can get through most of the game not totally mastering the parry mechanic, and then you get to the end and it's like, oh boy, this is suddenly a Sekiro boss.
You turn into Mickey Mouse as you're trying to parry. I get it. It's tough.
Yeah,
Matt Miller was telling me that, who reviewed it as well, and I was like, I am somewhere between Michael and Jacob. I think I don't know if I like it as much as Michael, but I think I like it a little more than you, Jacob, which is a weird thing to gauge. Like this is one of those games that's keeping me up late. Like it is definitely one of those. That side quest is over there. I'll just take care of that, and then it's like 2:00 in the morning, and I'm like, oh crap. But
my power went out last night when I was playing. It was so late.
Oh, no.
Is God trying to
shower just shut off in the middle of the night?
Yeah, it's LA living, Kyle. You got to get out there.
Oh, okay. Sorry. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm a little scared, Jacob, of what you're talking about, like that difficulty spike at the end, because like so far it's been like perfect for me, because I actually, as much as I enjoy From games, I do think they're a little too hard for me. Like I do get frustrated with them and get annoyed with them at a certain point. But this was like, I'm just dying a little bit. I've had a couple bosses I've beaten on my first try, which was very satisfying. And so like I have been really happy with like the difficulty has been exactly where I wanted. So I'm a little scared of this end, but it's one of those I'm in now to the point where like I don't see myself not seeing credits on this game. I'm just enjoying it so much.
And the good part is also the last 5 hours of the game are like easily the best part of the game to a almost like confusing degree, where like I would have been a lot cooler on this game, I think, if it did not end with just kind of a home run, which was really, really unexpected. So if you're liking it now, that's just going to keep going up.
Like production
there
values
are multiple
wise?
endings apparently.
Oh, weird.
There are two, and you can't just reload a save. So if I want to see that other one, I'll either look it up on YouTube, probably, or maybe replay the whole thing.
Yeah. But yeah, last time we talked about it, that was the thing. Is like, oh, the opening just feels like a bigger budget of a game than I was expecting.
Yeah, the opening is there, and then the end, the last couple missions, some of which you'll realize, oh, this is what they were showing in like the trailers. It's the last missions of the game. I think that like almost all of the linear story missions are really cool and like varied and have great environments. And where it kind of loses pacing is it has a couple like big open world environments which you can kind of run around in. And like some of the side missions are actually pretty involved and interesting, but like it does make me wish that the whole game was just kind of linear, because like they do a lot, and there's platforming in those linear sections that I think is really fun, like
Love that
unexpectedly
stuff.
so. And like, you know, they can when they're super focused is when the game is the best. And when it widens out, it's not bad, but it loses some of that that direction that
I love that balance though, because like when you do a linear part, it's like a little more intense. You're going through, you know that like a bunch of intense enemies are coming. So when it lets you kind of just wander that open world, it like gives me a little more freedom to like, all right, let me just like farm these enemies a little bit, get a couple skill points, like do a little side questing. So I really like that. I wanted to ask you guys about side quests, because I feel like ever since Final Fantasy 16, there's been like this turn where people are a little more critical of what is a good side quest. Because the early complaints about this too is I've seen like, the side quests are pretty boring. They're you know, basic. But I always think of like a side quest is just giving me more of the game and more of the story.
I think there's a pretty clear divide, and the game actually does it for you, where some quests you will get from a bulletin board in the main town, and some quests you will get from other NPCs, and the NPC ones are always more involved and more interesting than the bulletin board one. You know, when it comes down to it, 50% of the side quests in this game are, hey, can you find this guy? And then you go and there's a dead body somewhere. And you say, hey, I found him. And that happens like a dozen times.
So maybe just too many of the same thing.
Yeah. And so, you know, and I don't think that there's not a lot of story attached. And so it's like, if you just want more combat, sure, you do get it by doing those. But like, there are, you know, ones where it's like it's given to you by a person around town. You'll fight like a variant of a boss that maybe you haven't seen in a while. And those are really rewarding because it feels like it's, you know, unique content that you're getting versus just find a dead body.
Nice.
Yeah. You get a lot of experience from doing those too, which I found that it's like that's almost worth doing that more than say just like fighting a bunch of people in the desert. At least from,
I mean,
math is right, but it feels that way.
Yeah, I had almost like filled out, there are like 5 skill trees that you eventually unlock, and I had like almost completely filled it out by the end of the game.
So the people that are watching the trailers are into this, it feels like there's a lot of hype for this game. Like, I'm curious how it's going to sell, but like if they're going in saying, I want Bayonetta Elden Ring, is this going to be satisfying? I'm trying to get a sense of like the combat and how much it's going to click for a lot of folks out there.
Sexy Sekiro?
Yeah,
Sexy
it's like
Sekiro.
Devil May Cry. Some Devil May Cry vibes.
Okay.
Bayonetta a little bit.
I mean, I think people will be...
Final Fantasy 16.
I think people will be happy about it, generally. You know, it's like there's a crowd that's excited about this game for reasons that I'm not, and whatever, have fun, dudes.
Deviants.
But like, I think that in general, like, it delivers on its promise, which is it's a fun sci-fi fighting game.
Yeah. There's a real, I would say, really good action game here for sure.
Nice.
The sound, the control, like everything about it, like it is just so fun to like chop these enemies down, because like blood will go everywhere. It just like the performance is rock solid. There's just like such an impact when you hit things. Like again, it's not on the level of Sekiro, because I think Sekiro is like the best combat in any video game ever made. But like I'm getting those feelings. Like anytime you get a couple parries in a row, like I haven't felt something that good since maybe Sekiro.
That's huge. That's huge, man.
Feels really good. Maybe just a little. I wish it was a little faster though. Like
faster.
You can get actually faster. They dole it out chips pretty slowly, but there is like speed increase gear, and you can put like
all that
12% and 15% in at the same time, and suddenly you're moving, you know, 30% faster.
That's what we need.
Jesus Christ. Kyle, I feel like we need to come to a consensus. Are we calling him Michael or are we calling him Huber?
I don't know. I'm sorry. Huber? What's the preference?
I have no preference.
You've no preference.
I have no preference. Usually people just end up calling me Huber, but I truly don't care. Mike
Muber.
Muber. Yeah, that could be a differentiator from Easy Allies, is we call him Muber over Huber. No, we call him Jeffo, and we can call him Muber. I think it's
Yeah, that's right.
the comments make me laugh of people being like, why are they calling him Michael? It's making my skin crawl.
It's that thing that it's like, now I don't know what to say, but Mr. Huber, I don't know you that well.
No, not that.
Colonel Huber, please.
In the same way, I wasn't sure if I was allowed to call Jeffem, during the first couple weeks at Game Informer.
He still complains about that a lot in private, actually, for you calling him Jeffem.
Specifically about Kyle.
Yeah. Okay. The question that's gross to ask, and I apologize, but we got to ask it, everybody. I mean, are we talking Stellar Blade top 10 end of the year? Top 5 end of the year? I'm trying to get a sense. I know only Jacob's finished it, but I mean, how hot on this are we?
10 for me right now.
Oh, okay.
I think there's a very good chance this ends up in my top 10. Yeah.
Okay.
Bottom 5 of the 10, I'm going to say for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is too reductive. I understand that. But Jacob, you're saying number 1?
No. It would be 9 or 10 if it's on there.
Wow.
Okay. I like it, but I think, we haven't talked about, it's like the story is completely predictable and pretty banal. Like, it's not, once you step outside the combat and the environmental design, I don't think the game's doing a whole lot.
But I actually really like her voice acting a lot. I like, it gives me like a Gemma Chan vibe. I don't know, like she's in like Eternals and like the show called Humans, but like I really like the VO of the characters, and I think that's helping me kind of like
I agree. I think that the performance is good. I wish they gave her a single interesting thing to say, and unfortunately they do not.
Yeah, she's very nice and she wants to help everybody, which is very sweet.
Hang on. Well, that's why we love Ichiban, so what's the difference?
Ichiban has like passions. He has like things he's excited about.
Ichiban's hyped.
Stellar Blade out on Friday, April 26, 2024 from Shift Up, the developer. Also, sweet Jesus, we almost forgot to say, codes provided by PlayStation. Technically, only 3 of us have to say that. I don't think, Kyle, you have to say that, but I just want to get that really clear out there. But yeah, Stellar Blade on PS5. Curious to see how this one sits. Anything else we're missing for Stellar Blade? Speak now or forever hold your peace. We'll never speak about Stellar Blade again on this show.
I spoke with the developers this week, and they said the Bible was a big inspiration.
Hell yeah.
I was like, all right, cool.
The game isn't that horny. It's like the character design is, you can't get away from like the physics, but like it kind of, except for when my partner would walk in the room and be like, are you still playing this? It generally, like, you just ignore it and the game doesn't call almost any attention to it other than the costumes, which feel like they're kind of entirely separate from what the game's doing.
Right.
Yeah, I asked them about that, and I was like, do you guys have like a lore reason why Eve is so into the costumes? And they're like, well, we did at first, like we had her be interested in the costumes she's finding on Desolate Earth, but we decided to take that part out of it. So it is because
that would be giving her a
player
personality.
how you want to dress her. It's never talked about in the plot or anything.
So Kyle, but they said that she's like Eve cast out of the Garden of Eden to go down to Earth in this case, and that's their biblical connection here?
I guess
or
so,
they're talking
there's
about
a character
the
named
side
Adam
quests?
as well that you work with. It actually, I think, Ben, you would appreciate this kind of thing because it's like there's an area called Matrix 11. Zion is like the hub city.
The phones. I always think of the Matrix, teleporting.
And there's a character named Lily, Lily Wachowski.
Okay.
And I asked them, and I was like, are you guys like really into the Matrix, or is that all just coincidence? And that was their response. They were like, well, yeah, I love the Matrix, but we're really looking more toward the Bible, which the Matrix did as well, which was I just thought like a weird sort of path to get there. I was like, you guys like the Matrix? And they're like, yeah, the Bible, of course.
Yeah, the Matrix is cool and all, but have you guys checked out the original Matrix? We call it the Bible. All right, Stellar Blade, everybody. Jacob Geller, God bless your heart. You want to clap on out of here if you have nothing else to say, but you're welcome to say anything you want before you clap out, just to be very clear.
That's right. Buy my book.
Leo.
Huge clap.
Oh my God, Leo
round of
Vader, as I
applause.
live and breathe.
Wow. What's up?
Welcome. Oh, huge clap and then somber mood. I don't understand you anymore, man.
I blow my energy.
I get it. Okay. You can sit down and rest if you need to.
you.
Well, I hope you can rest and drink some water, Leo, because we're going to the Sandland, the big Sandland upstairs. Here we go. This is Toriyama's game inspired by his manga, Rest in Peace. And this is the one that was put out by Bandai Namco, developed by ILCA, the same studio that made One Piece Odyssey and Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, those remakes, all that fun stuff. I have played a couple hours of this thing. Kyle, you reviewed it at Game Informer?
Yes, I beat it.
Sweet. And Leo, where are you at with Sandland?
Couple hours of this thing. I feel like I'm just getting to the meat of it.
Okay, and how's that meat tasting in your mouth?
Not bad.
Okay.
Certain elements feel almost like Xbox 360 launch game caliber, kind of.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily hurt it. It's like a nostalgic kind of energy.
Yeah.
It's just weird thing like sniping enemy areas from super far away and they don't even respond. It's like they're not expecting you to be.
They also, I would
sniping.
even go back a generation, and there's like some big stealth sequences in the game that feel like very PS2.
Yes.
Like,
But
why-
still, it's like an insult to Sly Cooper. Like, the Sly Cooper was nailing it so much better.
Oh,
than
that's a fantastic game because that was like built on being stealthy. This
Right.
I'm talking about like the Incredible Hulk, PS2 era games. They're
great
like, we're
game.
going to have a stealth sequence here when you're playing a really powerful character. Like,
Right.
Beelzebub has a pocket full of like vehicles and tanks, and he's
Right.
like, there's 3 guys here. I better be stealthy. It's like, what are we doing, man?
Yeah, not just a pocket full of that equipment, but they're also in capsules. Just very
Yes.
Dragon Ball here. I was realizing when I booted this up. Here, we're just to be clear, you haven't played Sandland yet?
I've not played Sandland.
Okay. But I know you're a Dragon Ball fan. How curious are you about the world of Sandland?
I'm mostly curious.
Okay.
There's some of the environments looked a little boring, kind of.
So here's the thing. Yeah, I realized as I was booting this up, I was hoping for this thing to rock my world. I was so ready. And going into it, this is too easy of an analogy, I think. But I was like, man, if this is just like another take on the Mad Max game from 2015, but with Toriyama art, I'm going to be over the damn moon. Just
Yeah.
like having a somewhat mindless open world game where it just will have flashes of like really cool Toriyama designs of like, oh, look at this tank. You get to drive a tank that looks like a wild, bulbous Toriyama tank. Or look at this enemy. Like, Kyle, my favorite is Commander Ziu. Like, his design is just wild in the big
the
sphere
characters are
armor
cool.
stuff.
Oh, and he has like a video game controller. Is like how he
Yeah, he's like one of my
controls
favorite
the-
character designs I've seen in a really long time. But then the more I play, the more it's like, this is a game where they're running around, don't feel great, and then you're just kind of going through a series of, hey, yeah, no, what if you went over here and did this? Okay, now if you went over here and did this, and I'm waiting for like, when's the groove happening? When is the fun triggering in my brain?
Yeah.
And it wasn't quite there for me.
It is. I'm in the same zone as you. Like, this game's okay, and it does hit that point, right, where you kind of have a motorcycle and a tank and a jumping vehicle, and it's like you have free reign. It's like done tutorializing, but it takes a really long time to get there. Like, I think I was something like 6 or 7 hours or something, or when I finally felt like, okay, I can kind of do what I want now.
Right.
And it's always such a rough thing because it's like, it gets better and better, but it's like there's a lot to get through before you get there, which is disappointing.
And that just comes down to like vehicle customization. Like, that's the sweet spot, is just kind of roaming around, or what?
It's having the full garage of vehicles, I think, is like a big thing. And then like Spino, have you guys gotten to Spino?
Yeah, the
That little
town you build up. Yeah.
Like, yeah, like you start finding people out in the desert who need help, and your directive is often like, yeah, you should go set up in Spino. And then like what'll happen is you'll do like 3 or 4 side quests, and you tell a bunch of people to go to Spino, and then when you just go back there on your own for like a story quest or something, all of a sudden there's a little cutscene where there's like 6 people that'll be like, oh, this looks nice, I'll set up a town here, and someone sets up a shop where you can like add decals and paint your tank.
Yeah.
And then the garage, like I did start quite enjoying like leveling up the tanks and like going and fighting raptors because I needed to get raptor stuff to make my tank go faster. It
Sounds
does
great on
get
paper.
there.
Yeah.
It does get there, but it takes a long time, and it's never like, it never gives you full free reign. There's still a little bit, maybe too much direction throughout the whole game.
Okay. The characters, they working for you?
I like Rao,
Okay.
the old man.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. But pretty much no one else I really connected to in a big way. I like their designs, but like their characteristics, like they're pretty established from their first line of dialogue and don't really change much and aren't super interesting. You know, Beelzebub likes to fight and he's actually kind of a good guy.
But he wants to be a little bit of a stinker because the idea is there's a bunch of demons around this world. And the coolest thing in the game so far is that premise of like, all right, you play as Beelzebub, you are the prince of hell, and you go talk to Satan in the beginning to get permission to go on this quest. And he just looks like Deborah from Dragon Ball.
100%.
And he's like, okay, look, you can go on this quest. Just don't play video games too much. Don't sit too close to the screen. It's like, all right, this is some good Toriyama vibes. I'm very into this
There's
angle.
some funny stuff.
Yeah. But then it's confusing. Is it all of the fiends in this game, all the demons, their angle is we're not actually that bad, but we want to pretend that we're bad, so humans are scared of us and we can't kill all the humans?
There's a line of dialogue that's like, we don't kill humans, we just prank them.
Right.
I think that's what they use.
Yeah.
It never fully made sense to me. Like they're totally in the same position as the humans. Like we need water. And it's like this big thing where it's like, yeah, I can't believe you're working with a demon. And it's like, well, they're not really doing anything bad. Like why? I don't really understand why. Yeah, that part never quite made sense to me. I don't know. Yeah.
I was shocked because it plays up the personalities more than you think because you're riding around in the tank or running around the open world and, you know, they're talking to each other.
It's fun to see a whole crew of people hanging off your tank as you're driving.
Right,
like, I like
right.
that
That's a good look.
You know,
I just wish, there's a little more personality there to make it feel like we're going on a big adventure, which is how they're kind of framing the story. But everything kind of just fell flat on that front, but at least so far. But, you know, Captain Rao, who's like the cop who's coming with you, some of his dialogue, man, I was like, is this the most bored actor on earth?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's just a weird
at least
COVID
he repeats
thing.
himself ad nauseum, you know?
What is going on? Okay, this is number one fatal flaw with this game is literally, Huber, you go to an area very early on, there's 3 treasure chests. You open up the 3 treasure chests. When you open up 2 of those treasure chests, at least for me, Beelzebub, the main character, he goes, I'll keep it. Might turn out to be useful later. I was like, 2 out of the 3? You're repeating the dialogue out of the gate. And then I would say
silent at that point.
exactly, but it stays, I think, at that ratio for everything you pick up then throughout the opening hours at least. Even going, I'll keep it. Might turn out to be useful later. It is bananas. There's a whole sequence where like a giant sandworm is chasing your car that should be awesome. And then Rao is just going, not good, step on it. Not good, step on it. Not good, step. And I'm not failing. Like I'm doing the mission in one go, but he's just saying the same line like 6 times in a row. It is absurd.
First off, nice job doing it. First try. Pretty impressive.
Thanks, man.
I did make an early decision to go change the audio to Japanese voiceover.
Oh, that's smart.
It masks some holes in the dialogue.
Yeah.
The voice acting is just in general pretty underwhelming. And like Rao, I like as a character. Like I think I like this. He's an old man, and like he's like the most accepting sort of like liberal left-leaning guy in the world. I don't know. It's like he's just so. I like how like on board with everything he is. All that like you expect the old man character to be like, what? We can't do that.
A demon
like,
in my
right,
party. Yeah,
we'll get it done. But switching to Japanese is not a bad idea.
Not good. Step on it.
I was gunning against Rao, and I was ready to throw Rao under the bus in a huge way. And then I was like, who is this voice actor? He's just wandering off the street. Who is this gentleman? No offense to this wonderful man who clearly is a professional, as IMDb
Daniel
told me.
Day-Lewis.
It turns out Huber, he plays Captain Titov from Rebirth, who was the captain on the cruise ship in Rebirth, who I loved. I was like, that's my main man. Like he's protecting his crew, protecting people on that ship. He's such a badass. And now he's fallen so far to Captain Rao level territory in Sandland. But how much is the water management a thing as it goes on? Because it's interesting. It's like, okay, is it going to be a thing that I'm going to have to worry about here as a precious resource?
Hit a point in that game where I was trying to find an old tutorial. Like I couldn't find in the menus to look at old tutorials because I was like, I remember reading something about water management, but I have never thought about it since.
Okay.
Like sure, because like every time I would get to a water thing, I would refill.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not like I'm dying more or have noticed my health dropping or like I truly don't know what the water thing was. So the answer is it's a nothing. It gets completely nothing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine.
Because
So,
I really like the gas mechanic in Mad Max. That was so fun.
Yeah, no, you don't have
Totally.
to worry about anything like that. Yeah.
Having a spare gas container you could have as gas reserves, or you could take out of your trunk and throw and shoot and blow up.
So cool.
Awesome.
dipped into reserves. So, Leo, it's comforting in a nostalgic way. You're gonna stick with Sandland, you think?
It's got, yeah, again, kind of that 360 collectathon almost nature. But after an hour, I did stop paying attention to any of the dialogue and gave up completely on it.
Yeah.
I do also recommend changing controller type. By default, you drive Halo controls, pushing the thumbstick forward. But
Right.
you can change the control type to control type B, and then it's right trigger, left trigger. And the vehicle just feels better to drive that way, I think. So there's a bit more of an inherent reward to controlling now that I've switched that up. So there's enough going on that I'll give it another hour or two.
And
see how I
is
feel.
that I didn't do that change. Does that go across the board for all the vehicles? You don't have to do it like individually or anything.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, because there's a couple walking vehicles that I feel like that would be off.
Oh, interesting.
I can see
Yeah,
that.
could be.
Like the jumping
Yeah,
stuff and
that's
whatnot.
interesting. Yeah, because that initially, I did have that moment where I was like, it feels like I should be pulling the right trigger to control this thing. But I just got used to it. You know, I stuck with it. And by the end of the game, it was like totally fine. I didn't even think about it at a certain point.
How much Toriyama love was flowing through your veins while playing this, Kyle? Because I think I get it.
a
Like with the
lot.
passing of Toriyama, it's like, God, I just want to experience his art more. And this is a way to do it. You know, I think my takeaway after playing what I played was, I bet this manga is pretty cool. I don't know if I want to keep playing this game though, but like, was that a lot of your love for pushing it through the game? Was just like, God, it is fun to see his art and live in a Toriyama world for a little bit.
It is a Toriyama story because he really didn't do that many outside of Dragon Ball. There's not a lot of just like, and I think Sandland's only like, you know, a handful of issues.
Oh, really? Okay.
And like, so that was a big deal for me. It's like, okay, I get to see this kind of, you know, original Toriyama story. And there's like you said, there's capsules, which is not, you know, it's just a coincidence. You know, I guess you could call it that. It doesn't have anything to do with Dragon Ball. There's like, you see, like, there's a point in the game where you find like Namekian style houses. You know, like there's like
I
the
love
sort
it.
of bulbous houses, which is just like his style.
Anne is basically Bulma. I mean, we got a lot of overlap
which
there.
she is. I don't know this for sure, but I don't think Anne is a Toriyama character because the way the game works, and this is like really weird, and like if to the point where I would almost say if you guys are kind of want to stick with it for a little while, maybe play up to this point, because the game is a retelling of the manga, but it also is functionally a full sequel.
Oh, cool.
And like you actually hit a line in the story where it's like, oh, well, this is obviously where the manga ended. Like clearly this is like the end of the story. And then the last, like, then it goes like there's another like 2/3 of the game that are clearly new characters that I don't think Toriyama wrote any of that stuff.
You can
and
just
then
feel the
Anne
difference?
is a character who is like injected, you know, back into the beginning to sort of flesh out that
see.
other 2/3 of the game.
Okay.
Like, I mean, you leave Sandland at a certain point.
What?
Yeah. Which they talk about, and I think they've even shown trailers.
Yeah,
and
they
stuff.
showed a trailer of like another spot.
Jeez, Leo. I
And
mean,
shame on them as well as you, Kyle.
yeah. Leo, I don't know about you,
And
but
like-
I've heard of Enter Sandman, but Exit Sandland?
That one's new, answer.
God damn.
But and then ultimately, like I was excited to see the story to the end. Like I wanted to see what was going to happen.
Sure.
Like there was enough seeds planted there where I was kind of like, okay, I want to see where this goes. But there is a weird, like there's totally a line where I think Toriyama just totally exits, and I could be wrong about that. Maybe he was more involved than I realize. But
Exits
yeah.
Earth?
Well, I mean, he did that too.
He passed away. Rest in peace, Toriyama. So it is a weird feeling of like, is this going to be the last Toriyama game? Like, Hubert, Dragon Quest 12, I'm curious, is there a universe where they'd shake it up and not have Toriyama do the art for Dragon Quest 12? Like, imagine he was involved in some way before he passed.
Oh yeah, I'm sure a lot of that has been
I bet
done.
Yeah.
But
So
I mean,
guess,
I actually Googled Dragon Quest 12 like 3 days ago, and it was like, we had to like, someone had to resign, and a big producer had to step in. Like that game's got problems right now.
Oh yeah.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Because all they've really said is like, they had the logo and like, this is going to be the gritty, dark Dragon Quest. Be scared of the direction we're going, everybody.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll be the last chance to kind of celebrate his game endeavors.
Yeah. That'll be big.
I'll be curious what you think, Ben, because I was thinking on it, and like I kind of, this is like unfair, but I'm just not a big fighting game fan, so I never really got into fighters as much
Sure.
as I wanted to. I like really made an effort to try and play fighters, but I never really got into it. And I was thinking back on all the Dragon Ball games and stuff that I've enjoyed, and even though I know my feedback here is coming off as kind of tepid for Sandland, I do think this is my favorite adaptation of a Toriyama thing, as someone who's not a big fighting game fan. Because this is
Well,
like,
what about Dragon Ball Kakarot?
I mean, I like Sandland a lot more than Kakarot.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so I think it is my because it's what I want from adaptation and anime adaptations in particular, where it's like, even though I came in totally at a 0 for Sandland, didn't know the story or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like when I play like games based on anime that I like, I want to just hang out in the world. Right?
This
Like,
is why
that's
you
the
liked.
thing I'm excited.
You
to
loved
do.
One Piece Odyssey for the same reason, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or
Village.
World Seeker specifically.
Oh, sure.
I like, because that's like the open world one where you can just go like hang out on your boat with your pals and stuff like that, and you can just kind of explore. Like they've established this world, it exists. Go out and get lost and meet some characters. Like I'd rather have that than like a fighting game, or like what it comes down to a lot is like, you know, like there's the One Piece games that are like Dynasty Warriors games and stuff like that. Like that's not really what I want. I just want an excuse to like be in the world.
Yeah.
And Sandland, I think, does that well. Like
Okay.
I spent, after I put like 25 hours or so into the game, and I was like, I felt like I spent time in Sandland, and that was like, that's what I want from adaptation.
Yeah.
So like, in some ways, even though it's like kind of middling, Leo, I think your opinion about it sort of feeling like like it's from a previous generation is accurate. But in terms of like getting a chance to learn what Sandland is and see the whole story and meet these characters, I don't think I would have wanted anything different. Really,
Yeah.
I think they did a good job on that.
I mean, yeah, Kyle, you gave it the same review as Alan Wake 2, so I mean,
Yeah,
clearly
right.
clearly it's one of the best games of the year, I think, based on that. There we go. Sandland, everybody. Check it out. I'm curious to see. It's a swimming in sevens option for you, Huber. If you want to go down that road, I feel like there's going to be champions of it. It's going to click with some people out there, so I'm curious to see.
It's
how it works.
It's not bad, right?
Yeah,
it's
right.
not like stay away. It's just like if you're not like feeling it after the first 2 hours, I don't think it's going to change your mind.
Yeah.
But I think there are people who will find it and like it.
Have you guys played Battle Tanks?
No, what is Battle Tanks?
Is that with an X?
There
Feels like
might
it
have been
should
an
be.
X in that. I was trying to get some
with an
tank
X.
comparisons with Sandland because I like I haven't like played a tank vehicle game. I feel like in so long.
What about Tiny Tank on PS1?
I don't know if I ever played that one.
Oh my God.
World of War tanks? Is that what it's called?
World of
World
Wars
of
tanks. And then
This
remember,
feels more like a third-person shooter, honestly, especially if you keep the controls rather than what Leo did, which was smartly change them.
Yeah.
It really feels like once you get in a tank, you're just kind of like a slow-moving, like third-person shooter. That's pretty fun. It's not bad. I would much rather be fighting in the tank than hand-to-hand with Beelzebub. That stuff, I was like, let's please do that as little as
I know that when I kicked somebody super far and they like went through the car, there was no collision on the car I was driving. That was a worrying moment.
here we are, Sandland, baby. All right, not bad, but not good. Step on it. Kyle, thank you for being here. You want to clap on out of here, dude?
Yeah. Buy Jacob's book.
Janet Garcia, the fiercest clap in the industry. Welcome.
Hello.
That was the best clap of the show so far. You should know.
Thanks.
Leo, he tried too hard. Jacob was plugging while
cringe.
clapping.
Classic Leo.
Yeah, it was a real mess. Welcome to the big show, Janet. You're here to sit back and relax because you're in retirement now, baby. We're talking the retirement of our dear old Rusty. Now, Huber, Muber, are you familiar with Rusty's retirement?
Any connection to Rusty's Real Deal Baseball?
Good God, I wish. I wish that he retired from that stupid shop in Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, and now he's sitting back, sitting pretty. But no, this is, help me out. It is a farming sim game that,
Idle farming sim.
idle farming sim that sits on your desktop.
Ooh.
Okay.
On the bottom, like
I love
quarter or
Cookie
fifth.
Clicker. I'll tell you that right now. I'm a Cookie Clicker fanatic.
Oh, okay. Well, open your
on.
ears
Games.
for Rusty's retirement. So, Leo and Janet, you've been playing this thing. Kyle was so disgusted by it, he didn't even want to talk about it. But what is the idea with Rusty's retirement?
Yeah, this is again, idle farming sim. It's developed and published by Mr. Morris Games, who also created Haiku Robot, which is a really solid Metroidvania that admittedly I didn't finish.
yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it does fall off at one point, but I love that title from this creator. And then they came out with this as their next project, totally different in terms of genre, but it's just meant to be something that exists in the background, while you're watching YouTube, while you're working, while whatever. You do a couple clicks to sort of set things up, maybe plant some wheat, plant some other types of produce. You let the creature, you start off with just Rusty, which also, this is a really busy retirement for Rusty. I don't know if you thought of that, Leo, as you were playing, but I'm like, Rusty's busy at this he's all in on this farming hobby. And Rusty's working more in retirement than I'm working in my career. But shout out to Rusty. Leo, what else would you add to sort of the back of the box for Rusty's retirement?
It's a lot about buying new buildings and making your place beautiful too. You do end up with a really beautiful little farm sitting at the bottom of your screen. And I do appreciate that there is an option for having it always be in the foreground. So if you're video editing and there's a part where you just need to let play and kind of clear that it looks good and you didn't say anything wrong.
Yeah.
You can just be chipping away at this underneath, touch up some things, do little upgrades. There's tons of little things you can chip away at. And I mostly use it just in between writing Pomodoros. Every 25 minutes, I'll check in on it. And it's satisfying to have it grow bit by bit like that. Like a Pomo farm I got really into last year and only stopped playing because
cool
I
about
maxed
that,
out.
I don't think it's added in yet. I've played maybe... It's tough to mark playtime in a game like this. It's been open for probably a good amount of hours, but I'm not necessarily always adding to it or feeding into that loop, because Leo mentioned, you're kind of, you get money, you can convert it to or you get fuel and you can convert that fuel to money, and you use fuel or money to buy upgrades. You can actually get Haiku the Robot in this, which is a cute little I love how much indie games do nods to either their other titles or nods to other games.
Just throw it all in there. Yeah, totally.
Characters.
Yeah.
So they have stuff like that where it's okay, now Haiku can help out, and then after doing certain things you can unlock, okay, now you can buy flour, and so there's additional stuff you can add to it. So sometimes it's running, but I didn't plant anything or something. So I haven't seen the full breadth of the game, but I know from following the developer on Twitter, they mentioned, and I don't know if they're going to add it or if they already added it, but that they mentioned thinking of adding Pomodoro timers to it, Leo. So I feel if that ends up happening, it's going to be that perfect storm of how people already kind of are responding to the title, because it had a demo previously before the release.
They already have the best feature I've ever seen, which is a checkbox in the menu called focus mode that literally just makes everything take twice as long. It's I'm not in a hurry to finish the content of this. I'm only checking in on it once in a while. Why not make everything take longer and stretch this game out for me?
What a weird idea to have that in a game and have it be a hell yeah. In any other game, be are you kidding me? Why would I want to slow things down?
Because Rusty moves, he moves quick. I'm oh, he grabbed the wheat already? I was I'm kind of still doing my other stuff. So I love that it's in there. Other things I got to add to the game, for its full 1.0 launch, is different aesthetics of the environment. You can have a grassy area, a sandy area. So it's just a nice, pretty little game that sort of runs. And to Leo's point of the quality of life details in this, it's the little stuff where it's clearly, and not that obviously every developer is thinking about how to best implement their game and everyone's making that attempt, but I feel I'm really reaping the rewards of all the thought that went behind this, because even something boom, swap monitor, just right there immediately. And usually programs have ways that you can finesse that, within Steam or within your computer. But as someone that has a multi-monitor setup, the ability to easily swap monitors, to easily raise or lower it a certain amount of pixels, to have it exactly how I want it. It's everything that needs to be working is working. And, again, lots of developers do this, but it feels very clear that, this developer is taking in that feedback, implementing it, watching it. This has been such a long road to the release of this game. It's had way more eyes on it in terms of wish listing than Haiku Robot. I don't know what the sales look like comparatively, but that's also sort of taken them by surprise. Oh my God, a lot of people are excited about this game, and it's really high on new releases upcoming and stuff like that. So it's always nice to see a cool title also get a lot of attention and have the dev also be excited about that.
Sure.
It's great to see them excited, because sometimes you get kind of I feel sometimes people get salty about what of their work blows up, which I can understand that to a degree, but it's great that they're just embracing hey, I don't know what it is about this, but people are super into this project, and that's awesome. And not kind of have that baggage of like, oh, but what about my other thing?
Yeah, I mean, a sweet Metroidvania. Check it
out.
out. Check it out, Haikyuu the Robot, please, because that game was cool, Jen. I played a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the idle genre, you know? So it's cool to see one that is like, A, you just pay for it and there's no microtransactions, so you never doubt the balance of it.
Right.
And B, it's like made realistically for how you're going to use it. It being like so low intensity on your computer and always being this little thing. No full screen version of it. Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, also Hugo P Arts, which I think I knew this from before, made art for Rusty's retirement.
No way.
And also, I was informed by Hugo in the chat that Rusty was actually an NPC in Haikyuu the Robot. So technically, this is like a trippy sequel. So it's more that
Also,
like Rusty is the Clank of Haikyuu the Robot. That's not a correct metaphor, but that's where my mind went.
Rusty is
I don't know. I think video game robot, and I think of Secret Agent Clank, who
Of
we all know
course.
and love.
our favorite. But yeah, Hugo, we should point out, also made the new Min-Max banner art that we just revealed this week and stuff. So shout out, that's cool. He did the physical cover art of Haikyuu, and that's how he met the developer. Oh, that's awesome. But Rusty's retirement is this funky thing. Put it on the bottom of your screen and play a game at the same time. I'll stop. I don't know what this voice is. So I don't know what I'm doing. But thumbs up, Rusty's retirement. Cool stuff.
Yeah.
That's great. Leo, I forget if we talked about this on the podcast, but you should have been screaming louder about the game Stitch that was re-revealed last week.
Sorry.
And now it's on the Nintendo Switch because it was on the Nintendo Indie World thing. This is the embroidery game that Leo's like, oh, I've been playing on Apple Arcade. It's really good. I guess you guys can listen to me if you want. Anyways, I'll be over here quietly sucking on my thumb,
Sorry for talking.
being cool and passive. But Janet, I was so delighted to hear that you're in the same camp that I am, where we're finally giving Stitch its time in the sun. And this game, it's exactly what I want from a mobile game. And the fact that it runs well on Switch as well, and you can just use a touchscreen on there, it's like, yes, this is exactly what I need in my life.
I'm embarrassed that I didn't realize this was on Apple Arcade because like I have Apple Arcade and I feel like I have not developed a good flow for keeping an eye on what is new to Apple Arcade and then playing it. Which again, shout out to, I know you just dragged Leo, but I want to shout out Leo because I honestly get a lot of like, I went back and played Leo's old rec, which I talked about on the podcast like a few weeks ago, but that Sping
is the best.
Right.
Again, what the name, it's like, it's hard to move on. It's hard to move on.
What?
From the fact that it's called SP exclamation point NG, which is like so hard to say, but playing that, love that game.
It's so good.
Yeah, the Leo Rex always hit, and Stitch is so incredible. Like, it is just a really good puzzle game, and even though like in terms of the style of puzzle, it is very different than Picross, but the vibes feel like this is Picross for people who are afraid of math.
Yes,
which
Picross
I
for morons,
feel like
100%.
Hell yeah, because Picross is great, but like, okay, look, I'm sorry, I'm not a genius. All right, so I don't have a master's degree to do these 80 by 80 freaking puzzles just to look at what is supposed to be a boot. So it's like, I feel like Stitch gives you such a great aesthetic and much more approachable puzzles. Like, I think they're hard. Like, the hardest puzzle in Stitch is like kind of like a medium puzzle in Picross, and I'm like, that sounds about right for what I'm looking
Yeah.
for.
Stitch looked really inviting for sure. Because I'm the same way, Janet. Puzzles can freak me out sometimes.
I think it's the right level of challenge. Like, I don't know if you had this experience too, but I was playing with my wife. We're having a grand old time. I was like, this rules. I hope it gets like 40% harder. And it's like, there are those slightly challenging puzzles, like the dailies, I think can be a little bit tough where you're not actually making a picture and it's just more of the math-based thing. But yeah, it's an embroidery puzzle game trying to figure out, okay, you have a number and then you figure out how many squares to make this part of the drawing. But it's an easier Picross with better art. Is kind of
right. That's the other thing is I love Picross to death, but it's like you got to be 25 by 25 at least before it starts to be like a remotely interesting picture to look at when you're done.
Right.
And this, it's like any size, you will be proud and admiring the thing you just made at the end. And it's so much more colorful. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Picross is art for old heads, which I'm sorry if like you're very moved by the Picross art because I just said old pics. Like there is the nostalgia, or I don't know if you're not old enough to have the nostalgia for it. I don't know. Because it has that like 8-bit, 16-bit feel. There is a level of abstraction that comes with that. And I like that kind of art, but it is not as it creates different feelings for me. While like Stitch, like I look at Picross's art and it's like very nostalgic, and I look at Stitch's art and it's very comforting.
Yep.
You know,
It's
because it
cozy.
has like, I think too, like what makes Stitch such a good game is the way that it kind of maxes out everything it's doing. Like it has, hey, if you want easy puzzles, they have plenty of easy puzzles. If you want the harder ones, you can just select the harder ones, and then you'll have more of a challenge. The art has, it's like if Yoshi's Woolly World was like a puzzle game, you know, it has that like
right?
beautiful
Tactile
detail
nature.
in that stitching, and the
Yeah.
sound design is really good. The OST is really good. So I feel like it really leaned well into all of the details, which I think is a sort of unsung property of like quote unquote cozy games. I think cozy games, from people that don't really play them, get kind of dragged as like, I don't know, some cute little thing. Is the game good? And it's like, so, well, one, sometimes no, but sometimes yes. And there's reasons for that. And there's craftsmanship that goes into that has just as much merit as plenty of other styles of games. Like there are things to unpack and look at that I feel like from the untrained eye or the less experienced, like quote unquote cozy game player, they're kind of like, I don't know, I guess it's cute, like da da da. So that's something that I really appreciate about Stitch and what I think sets it apart from a lot of other titles.
Yeah.
It has quests too, right? Like I did in Apple Arcade. It kind of hits that incremental itch a little bit too, which it totally doesn't need to for the type of game it is. But that's like another point towards a thing it's doing right.
Yeah, totally. And what it makes up for in like not being a brain melter in terms of difficulty, but like it is really satisfying to do like extra large embroidery puzzles in Stitch, because you'll just be like, we're working on one. It felt like it was like 40 minutes. I could not stop playing. It's like I just want to go through and just color each little section, and I kind of even forgot what the level was that I tapped on, and then it's so satisfying when it's like, and you're done, and it zooms out and it's like, oh, it's a beautiful like boat on the water, and there's a whole forest in the background. Like it's such a satisfying little reveal. It feels like a coloring book level satisfaction, or like doing a big 1,000-piece puzzle or something level satisfaction for this thing.
It's because it has that paint by numbers like puzzle structure. Because
Yeah.
I feel like for people that saw the trailer, like it doesn't take long to figure out what the game is in terms of puzzles, but I feel like it does warrant some additional explanation. So essentially you get like a small grid. It's sort of like you have maybe making a penguin, it zooms into like its foot or something, and maybe in that zoom in it has part of its body. So that's where the colors come in, where it's like, oh, this section might be black and this section might be orange. But what you're given is a set of numbers within that grid. So you might have, and again, this might not add up because I'm just thinking of numbers, like 5332 or something. And your goal is to fill in over the number with the amount of squares of that number. So if it's a 2, it's like you have to click on the 2 and add one more, because 1 + 1 is 2. Same deal with 5, etc. And what I like
supposedly not a math head. All right.
Hey, slow down, Brainiac.
exactly. It's math for casuals, you know. So that's the structure, and I think what works well for it, and what helps with like the level of difficulty that it has, is besides having the layer of what's it called? It's process of elimination. Because Picross is also kind of a process of elimination. You figure out, okay, this one, you go piece by piece. One, the grids are a lot smaller than Picross, which is that you get all of it at once. 2, besides having the numerical process of elimination, there's a bit of hint within the coloration where it's like, okay, well, if I'm on this area, this will probably be this whole section because it has to be, still its foot or still its body. And I think it having those additional layers is what sort of helps make it like a little bit more interesting to do, but also can be an extra guideline if you are lightly struggling with like one of the sections. You can sort of look at that other almost environmental hint that's created because of the kind of puzzle game it is.
Yeah. So Stitch, it's $15 on the Nintendo Switch now. If you're interested, it's a satisfying little thing. I was surprised by how addicting I found it. It's going to be my go-to mobile game for quite a while here. Hey, you know what? These Leo recommendations, they freaking go both ways. Leo, you picked up Cat Quest based on Michael Huber over here screaming about it, constantly meowing out a window for someone else to join him on this quest.
That's right. I beat 1 and I'm deep into 2.
Nice.
Jesus Christ,
Dude.
man.
Gamer.
It's just a satisfying little RPG. That's the hook.
Yeah, perfect podcast game. You're always increasing your numbers in a way that is like tangible and doesn't go past your comprehension of numbers. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Fun spells, and in 2 especially, there's enough to do like builds. I really am prioritizing a certain spell and getting all the gear for it, and making sure that one specific thing I can do when I have the mana for it has as big of an impact as possible. There's like enough little decision making like there to be intuitive, to be fun, but
Yeah.
it's still like a podcast game, and a perfect podcast game at that.
Oh, that's perfect. Look at Huber. We're trying to be more like you. Let us be you, man. Please.
Cat Quest, I love it.
We're primed. When Cat Quest 3 drops in the fall, we're going to be deepest dive on Cat Quest 3. We could not be more ready to
Deepest
go
dive, yes.
on Cat Quest 3.
The entire timeline of Cat Quest.
Oh, man. Okay, Huber, let's talk about this real thing. Not that Cat Quest isn't real.
Damn.
I had
Just say
20
you
more
hate
minutes.
Cat Quest and move on. Like, why'd you're like, let me bring it up just to knock it down.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
No,
next level toxicity.
no, it's good. It's good. Cat Quest, it's good. We'll all like 3. I swear we're all going to jump in at 3. We're just not as hardcore
Okay,
as
I
Leo.
feel like you don't think we're gonna play 3. Like genuinely, I've been
I'm
looking
playing
forward
3.
to that game
I'm
for
gonna
a
play
while.
3. I'm going on that Cat Quest. I'm gonna put his little paw in my hand. We're gonna go on a quest together. Do you think I'm not gonna play 3, Janet? I'm gonna be there day 1 on Cat Quest 3. I'm gonna live Cat Quest 3. I'm gonna breathe Cat Quest 3. I'm gonna in a litter box, Janet. I'm gonna be there for Cat Quest 3.
This is the year of the cat. There's
won't
another
stop.
cat game coming out.
We got
Yeah,
another
Little
one.
Kitty Big City. Mhm.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right. Also, the year of the crab. By God, Michael Huber. Another crab's treasure. This
Another
whole
Crab's
thing.
treasure.
Yeah.
Crab souls.
Crab Souls. I feel like it's been shown for a while now, and it's always like, in my mind, maybe I just don't like games with animals starring in them. But in my mind, I was like, oh, that's a cute hook for a game. Sure, that seems right. And then I
Yeah.
booted it up, and I was like, oh, wait, no, this seems really well done. I'm actually really enjoying Another Crab's Treasure. It's a lot better than I was expecting it.
Yeah.
It's not just a gimmick of, hey, what if a crab Dark Souls game existed? Like, it feels good.
Yeah, no, it feels really good. The world is so cool. Like we're always used to these like medieval gothic style, like really dark and intense Souls-like.
Right.
Souls-likes, but this one is like really colorful. You know, the whole game is underwater. So yeah, you're like seeing a lot of coral reef everywhere, and
Yeah, but also I love that is my favorite thing about the ocean is that it's filled with trash. But that's such an interesting angle for this game. Is like it makes the environment so much more interesting when there's just like cigarette butts everywhere and sunglasses,
kinda
flip flops.
depressing,
Yeah, I think that we're gonna like your souls.
It really makes you want to continue to pollute the water. So, yeah.
In some ways, I mean,
Like
the
cool
souls,
environments.
the souls
At
you're
some
collecting, they're microplastics. Like
Yeah.
build up your microplastics and cash them in. It's
one of the tooltips was like your body has a certain amount of microplastics in it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Also, I love like the little pop-up tutorials thing too. It's just the small touches that will charm me on a game. But just instead of instead of hitting like A to just go to the next screen, you hold it down. It's a little satisfying meter making a beautiful little sound, and it just says at the end of every tutorial pop-up thing, it says acknowledge knowledge. You have to
Acknowledge
hold down
knowledge. I
A,
love
just
that.
Acknowledge knowledge. Boosh. All right, we're moving on to the next
Yeah.
tutorial tip. I was like, all right, you're making your tutorials charming even.
Yeah. The intro like really sets the tone. Basically this you know those like claw things you used to play with that have like an animal on it?
Yeah.
It's like a stick with it's a shark. A shark comes and they take your shell because you owe taxes. So like there's this whole big like taxes subplot, and it's like, yo, you gotta pay me the money and I'll give you your shell back. And you're like, I don't have any money. Like, what do you want me to do? So you set off to go to like the big town to try to track down this loan shark who stole your shell. And then like when you get to this town is really when I was like, man, this game is going to be a lot of people's favorite game this year. I feel like just because it's so charming. Like you get to this town and it's just like, the top of the city is like all these old liquor bottles that people live in, and like the bottom dregs of the city are like cardboard shoe boxes. And you can talk to the townspeople, and the people that live down there are like, yeah, it's pretty nice down here. It's really dark and cozy, but I wish the houses weren't so soggy. Like, so there's just like a really cool world to explore for sure.
Yeah, I was excited to go to that town. I got the shell to go in there and everything and meet the princess or the queen or whatever. But then I had to get through Nephro, captain of the guard, who just destroyed me.
Yeah, this game has difficulty spikes. This is a Souls-like, so it gets really hard sometimes. And it is, unlike we were talking about Stellar Blade, where you die and you can just like revive right there, everything's fine. This is that Soul style where it's like, if you lose your souls or whatever, you got to go back and find your corpse, or else if you die again, you lose it forever. So that gets pretty challenging for sure. And some of the bosses are hardcore, but the accessibility options are highly encouraged. You can turn on extra damage for yourself, less damage for the enemies.
Oh, interesting.
You can turn this on anytime. And in the, one of the tooltips was like, hey, if the difficulty, the game literally said this, if the game's difficulty is getting in the way of fun, there's no shame in turning on some of the accessibility options.
Oh, that's nice.
So if you want to like experience this world, but the difficulty is scaring you away, there's totally ways to make it easier.
I'm acknowledging that knowledge that they're laying down right there. Yeah, like the first kind of optional heavy duty bad guy was like, his name was the Royal Shell Splitter. And he just I'm like, I can get in the hang of this combat. I think I can handle this, and go over to him. And he has a bike lock, like one of those slidey bike locks, and he uses it like a guillotine. And it's just like one hit, just like bam, just slams your head off over and over again. It's like, okay, this is working on a much more difficult level than I thought this game was going to be on.
Yeah, and there's some rough edges. So like the controls, are nowhere near as tight as something as like Stellar Blade or a Souls game.
Sure.
Like, the parry specifically feels really unwieldy because to do it, you have to hide in your shell and then like release it. So just the timing and the
weird
controls of it just feel a little weird. Some of the level design is just a little confusing, just kind of those rough edges.
Yeah,
for sure. But there's so much charm and so much other good stuff that it's like, I can put up with some of those shortcomings.
Is there ever a map?
There is a map, but it's really bare bones.
Okay.
It's more of a world map. There is no like micro
plastic.
Here I am.
Oh, here I am.
And that's another thing is like there's no. I wish there was I'm obsessed with like journals in games where it like keeps track of characters and quests and all that. There's none of that, and I think that would have really helped it. Like not only add lore and world building, just like having some flavor text about some enemies or locations, but then just like objectives, like where am I supposed to be going right now? What was my mission again? But yeah,
Aggro Crab is the developer. Another Crab's Treasure.
Yeah, the shells are the huge mechanic of this game. You can get a ton. There's like over 50 of these shells. Janet, you were just saying how you love like it when indie games nod other indie games and stuff. One of the things is like a Among Us character. You can like
get as a shell.
Yeah. So they have like there's like a tennis ball shell where you can like roll really fast. There's a teacup, which is one of my favorites. It makes you attack stronger. Give you like a little tea, I guess, get some energy.
Okay.
There's like a banana peel where you can like eat the banana peel and regain health. So there's just a lot of different shells.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's
sweet.
like a little shot glass you can have. Like there's so many cool shells and they all have a different ability. That's basically like your magic. Your spells is your shell move.
Okay.
Each shell has like its own move.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Yeah.
Really cool, charming, Souls-like for sure.
Yeah. And it makes me feel good just seeing that like, a game this cute can play this well and get into that Souls-like genre. Like, no offense to what was that sci-fi Dark Souls game from like
Dolmen.
Not Dolmen, not your beloved Dolmen. No, I'm talking. I want to say like the Infuriated. It's just some like generic the Initiative. Some really boring name like that. Come on, everybody. It was just fun to see like
Retribution.
Something. But it's fun to see like a more charming take on this formula here. Comments will help me out with that thing.
Dark Souls, Ark, backwards, Crab.
Oh my God.
Is that where this idea came from?
100%. And Leo, I support that. I think you're right. Also, everybody backstage right now watching us live is saying The Surge. That was the name of the game I was looking for.
Yes.
How can I forget The
That sounds bigger
Surge?
than the other ones.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of charmers? Maybe that's a condescending way to talk about this game. Janet, you've been playing Tales of Kenzera Zao, the Metroidvania that is an EA original. I've started this thing as well, but Janet, how's this thing sitting with you?
It's fine. Honestly,
Gaming's canceled, everybody, we're done.
yeah, like I was really hot on like having played the preview of this, like
Yeah.
that we did at GDC, which was just really I think basically just the demo that they had on Steam, maybe a little different of a slice. There's definitely a lot that I like about it, but to me, I just feel like it's not hitting, you know?
Yeah.
It's not even necessarily that anything was done particularly wrong. I think there's a lot of small L's that add up to like, you don't really need to play it. I definitely could see people liking it. It's not a bad game by any means.
Right.
It's well constructed. The art is cool. The story is intriguing and heartfelt. It's sort of, you're reclaiming your father's spirit and you're kind of meeting all these different people and kind of helping them finish off their fate almost in I didn't finish freaking Spiritfarer, so I don't want to invoke Spiritfarer, but it kind of has that energy to it a little bit.
Right.
And the combat is like, it's generally, there's like little problems everywhere is the thing. So like, let me start with the good. Other good stuff I think is really cool is how many abilities you get at the jump of this game. Like when I started playing, I'm like, wow, like you get, like the big mechanical shtick is that you have these two masks. One's like of the moon, one's of the sun. And they have like different styles of powers. Like one's melee, one's more range. And then you kind of like working up the skill tree to like make them more powerful. And then the additional powers you get are kind of different abilities for those masks, basically. Like the first one you get, I think, is with the moon mask, you can do like a shot, like hold L2, kind of like throw a projectile.
Right.
And your power is that you can use that to freeze things. You can freeze enemies, you can freeze water, and then it's like, okay, cool, that's how I get back up this river. And it kind of starts to like continue in that way. I think that my number one issue with this game is, while I think there are ideas in here that make it feel distinctive, I think as a Metroidvania, it feels very generic. Like I feel like, sure, I'm going back to places with my new ability, but it doesn't really feel like I'm discovering anything. And I know like my big sticking point for Metroidvanias is like, once you get lost, you're kind of like screwed. And it's like, hey, hope you're smart enough not to mess this game up for yourself because, and that's kind of, I think, a rough part of Metroidvanias. It's why I thought Prince of Persia was so genius with their sort of little like photograph thing.
Yeah,
to sort of help
such a cool idea.
that pain point. But, in a good Metroidvania, I feel like one of the hallmarks is I had no idea what I needed. And then when I got it, I'm like, yeah,
right.
Oh my God, I'm going to go do that. I can't wait. Or like, ooh, this was different than I thought it would be. And obviously there's always like the morph ball or like what, there are usually things you can clock in Metroidvanias, but that's one of the things that gives it that special sauce. And this doesn't have that. It's like, yeah, I guess I use this to go back up the way I came. The map gets revealed almost immediately, which is like a huge point of Metroidvanias.
That blew my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many things. I mean, obviously I can, continue to go into detail. I have a bunch of notes in front of me, but Ben, how far in are you? Like so it's broken down into, I think, four acts?
Yeah.
4. I finished Act 1. I'm partway through Act 2.
No, I'm not that far at all. I played a little bit of it and was like, oh, this feels better than I thought it was going to be to control. I think it looks so similar in some ways to Prince of Persia this year that's the easiest comparison. But then it was like, I was surprised. Like, oh, you get double jump. You have that out of the gate and switching between the masks out of the gate. Like, okay, we have some possibilities here. And then, I read Charles Hart's review over at Game Informer. And when he said that, like, navigating this world is a pain in the ass. And the biggest thing is that you go into an area and it just unlocks everything in the map. So you don't know where you've been and where you haven't been. And it's like, that just seems like such a core idea to a Metroidvania. I don't know why they would make that decision.
Yeah, because I love like filling in, you leave like a little spot on a Metroidvania and then you get a skill.
Well, let's not go too far. Because I hate jumping in the corner to get that. It's like, come on, I was in the room.
That was like the Metroid problem was
I think you can give me this one.
Yeah,
it's
you're
fine.
Like double
but I get what
jumping
you
up
mean.
just
Because wasn't there something in Metroid Dread about like you had to uncover 100% of the map to get some bonus or something? There's some incentive, I thought, to scrub all the corners and all that crap. Like
I don't know. Let's not bring up Metroid Dread. We're having a good day, you know? And I love that
Wow.
game, but it's a pain in the ass.
It is hard. Yeah.
It's like, wow, loved it. Never want to do that again.
Right, right.
It's so hard. But
I like a
yeah.
lot of the vibes here, like the whole Afrofuturism like angle. I think that's a really cool angle, and the idea of EA looking at this, like that makes sense. Let's get a Afrofuturism Metroidvania. Looks great, sounds great. Let's do it, and then it's solid, just not exactly up to snuff on the Metroid level. But when you look at the other great Metroid games out there, it's like it's a tough genre to crack.
yeah, I just think like for me it's something to navigate. Like I never got lost in the game. I think maybe one time I was like, wait, which way did I go? But it's not even the navigation. It's just that so often I'm like, it feels like, and I think we use video game often when we're thinking of something very like stereotypically gamer,
Boar
something
blasters.
like Immortals of Avium, shooters, first person, like
Yeah.
Lord, whatever, right? But to me, like that's not the end all be all of that statement. And to me, this is a video game, and I think that's what makes it end up feeling so generic in how the mechanics are implemented. Again, lots of cool ideas, the Afrofuturism angle, we talked about the math, like all of that's like, okay, yeah, but then it's like it didn't come together in all these other little spots. Things like the dash kind of going too far to be useful in combat. Things like the fact that the knockback on this game is wild. Like I have gotten like, and not to mention there's a knockback combined with when you're hitting, you're moving forward. And there's so many like little platform, because it's sort of, the combat is arena style. You enter an area, they'll block off the entrance and exit. So there have been times where I've just been like stuck trying not to like fall, because if I like button mash too much, and part of that I think is intentional, where they want you to like have this push and pull, but there's also so much pull that I feel held back by the game's design. Things like the projectiles having like limited ammo and needing to sort of recharge in. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess they just want me to melee during this part. But there's so many like things holding it back. So many solutions to these environmental puzzles are literally pushing boxes. And I always think back to like how Leo ethered Cocoon, when he was like, this is just a bunch of box pushing puzzles. And I'm like, can't really tell you they're not, so what am I going to say? I'm just going to sit there and see what happens to the list, But like, this is literally, at least that had, more layers to it, design, whatever. This is literally a box pushing puzzle.
Right.
So many, like, and there's so many like little bits like that where I'm like, if it's like at that, this game is like technically good, which is like the worst kind of good, because it's got decent design, it's got decent combat. Like, it might be a step above okay, but it also might not. So that's kind of where I land on it. I'm between okay and good on this.
Yeah.
And if it's good, it's like barely good, like technically good.
Sure.
I do think like it is on one of PlayStation's tiers, I think extra. So I definitely think like
the extra tier,
if
Leo.
you saw this game and you're interested, I think 100% you should try it, because for all I know, like those things that bother me won't bother you, because there's other elements that are of quality. But it's just like, man, it didn't hit.
I hear you.
Sucks.
It's fun to see from people who finish it. They say like the story nails it, and it is funny. Like somebody wrote into the podcast this week. I don't think we're going to use the question. I apologize, but they're that idea of like games where the mechanics aren't living up to how solid the storytelling is here. But it seems like those themes are hitting home in a big way for this game. But yeah, I'm rooting for it. I'm curious to see how it's going to be received. A game that looks a lot like Prince of Persia: The Last Crown, which was a great game that isn't
I think
exactly...
it looks more like Ori than Prince of Persia.
Yeah?
Just environmental design, like the
Sure.
purples and the forest and all that. Like, I don't actually think it looks like Prince of Persia, personally. Just to throw it out there.
Okay. But a game like this that's called Tales of Kenzera Zhao, I feel like, oh boy, that name's going to be tough to find a bigger audience. Rooting for you. We'll see how it goes. Hey, Leo.
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, do you want to talk about Fallout a little bit?
Swimming in fours.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, no, you're drowning in forest.
Yo, what is your life? You're just watching the Amazon show, and then you said, God, I got to go back to Fallout here.
What's your life?
Hey, what's
dude?
your
Screw
life,
you.
buddy?
That next
I
gen
like
patch is
normal.
like tomorrow.
Oh, that's right, for Fallout 4. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was hyped off the show, and also I've loved Fallout 76. I won't say always, but I did come around on it a couple years ago. I put
Right.
like 90 hours in. I really enjoyed it.
Jesus.
And my settlement is built for new players. It's right outside of where you start. and it is just basics. You can craft things at different levels for different amounts of gear. So I craft a bunch of level 1 stuff and sell it for super cheap. I undersell because it's like I loot this stuff. It's not like I bought it, so I'm still making a profit, but it's like affordable for new players is the idea. And it's like I'm so
That's
well
so
suited for the
wholesome.
influx
Yeah,
of
that
new
is
players.
so jolly.
That's a jolly game. I mean, the first thing that happened to me when I started playing it was that a level 300 walked up to me and just handed me a bunch of free stuff, and that's a super common experience in that game. It's a
That's
really
the
nice-
Fallout vibe. Yeah, everyone just giving each other presents. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and a
I
lot
actually
of people
saw
are-
a comment where people were scared that the show got so big and now the game is so popular. I actually saw someone where they were like, yo, I hope the community stays as like nice as they've been, not with all these like new crazy people coming in.
Yeah, I wonder. But I mean, the only experience I've had is like, I mean, everybody's going to all the different Fallout games right now. I'm excited to spend time in the world because the show made it so exciting. And the advantage of Fallout 76 is that you can literally just go up to people. I guarantee you, anybody you find in that game, hit push to talk and go like, hey, what'd you think of the show? You can just talk to anybody about the Fallout TV show in the game. Many people have come to my shop and we've had a little conversation about it. Of like, oh yeah, I saw the show and I wanted to pick the game up. Seems cool.
Yeah.
It's,
Okay.
like,
So people
so
are digging
cute.
it because like the numbers I saw, like they have over 1 million concurrent players or 1 million players jump back into it daily. Is out there sharing.
Yo,
it?
is that like they type into text or they're like talking to you? There's like proximity chat or what?
Yeah, it's only voice chat, I think. I think text
Okay,
chat is a
okay.
mod, oddly, but it's just push
Got
to
it.
talk proximity chat or team chat. But it's all been super nice experiences so far, and it has, as expected, it's like there's an influx of new players. There's always a new level 1 up there at the top of the hill, and I'm like hoping they come down. I named my settlement Welcome New Wastelanders so you can see it on the map and come on
That's so
down.
cute.
Come on
Do you
down.
run out of stuff? Like, are you like, oh my god, I can't meet the demand? Like, I don't really know what this game is. The only thing I remember about this game is that everyone was mad that they were like no NPCs and all the NPCs were robots.
Yeah.
And that's all I know. And then I know those like 2 people on my feed who have been playing since it came out. That's all I have.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know
That's it.
more.
Yeah, NPCs came eventually. I haven't had a problem with amount of items because I think part of the reason players are so nice is because you end up with a lot more stuff than you need. And even in classic Fallout fashion, you're running out of room in your stash and you like need to get rid of stuff. So I definitely have, it'll take a lot of purchases for me to run out of supplies. And even then it's easy to like go hit my farm and then go to the campfire and cook dishes and then put them on sale for cheap enough that they get
So
bought
you
pretty
have
often.
Dishes.
the Wasteland version of the Animal Crossing Treasure Islands, basically. I mean, it's not a
Oh.
one-to-one because there you're just picking up the item to get in your inventory. You're not supposed to take stuff with you, but that's basically what you may have made.
The world is my treasure island.
That's beautiful.
That's right.
Is this just scratching an itch after watching the show? Do you feel like you're going to stick with this one for a while, or is it just kind of curiosity about what the community looks like now?
I've always maintained that for some reason, more than like any other game, I just think about going back to Fallout 76. I'm
Really?
like, I know if I downloaded that, I would have a good time.
Yeah.
It's comforting. And I'm not, Fallout 4, mixed reviews from people. It didn't hit very hard for me, but I think that was primarily because of writing and story stuff and the things it was doing gameplay wise, looting, building, modding. Modding guns and armor was all really strong, and that's just here and stronger in 76. And it's like a satisfying little loop to go on my little personal adventures and find the desk fan that has the screws in it that I need, like the really personal little objectives. And
Yeah.
the looting is just magic because it's like really, it's all about exploring environmental storytelling and these dense little rooms that people have lived in the lore, and the looting working the way it does, where everything contains pieces that are useful to break down and use in other things. It makes it so you're actually like investigating with your eyes around this room and you're not following like highlighted objects. There's just something about that is so specific and satisfying for me.
Yeah, I forgot that Fallout 4 had a VR mode, but I was on the DLC podcast this week, and Christian Spicer was, or Jeff Kanata, they were talking about going back to Fallout 4 VR, like getting the mods installed. It was Kanata, now that I think about it, and how
Power
like, that,
armor in VR?
yeah, and how that's also a surprisingly satisfying way to experience more of the show. Is like, yeah, just go stand around in that world in VR for a while, because that release completely went by my radar, I feel like.
Also, for fans of the show, they added a free ally for your camp that is a squire from the Brotherhood that has the giant bag and is standing there like
cool.
leaning on it talking to you.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute. Yeah, who is it in the Backstage Pass? Lorch Durden says they should just make a Starfield show then. I do. Can you imagine being Todd Howard and just having a rough go? Maybe, working your ass off, the entire team working their ass off, releasing Starfield, and then it's met with, it's okay if you like it, I guess, but then a lot of negativity, and then feels like the internet moved on, and now it's like he's executive producing a show, swings by the set, hangs out with some beautiful actors for a couple days, and now all of a sudden it's like, you're a genius, Todd Howard, Fallout rules. It's like just the night and day difference for effort versus reception for these two experiences. It's a whirlwind for that dude. He's spinning in circles.
I'm sure he'll be fine.
I hope so, Janet. I hope so.
It showed a lot of growth that you said beautiful actors just now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
You love them.
physically,
Well, a lot of growth
emotionally,
from
they're all
everything,
hollow and broken, I think. But at least from the exterior actors, I guess they're kind of known for being pretty.
Got it. Thought
Yeah.
to clarify.
Hey, can I spread the good word about a certain game? Is that allowed on this podcast? Have you guys
Reddit.
ever played a Top Spin game?
Just
No.
Virtua Tennis.
Okay, but
I'm
to
a
be
big
fair,
Virtua Tennis fan.
it frickin' rules. Huber, back on the Dreamcast, the first time I booted up Virtual
Yeah.
Tennis, I was like, what is this? How have I never paid attention to tennis games in my life? Because that game was so damn fun. Like,
Timeless classic. You boot that up right now, 1v1, and you will have a glorious time.
Huber, this is exactly the tree I'm trying to bark up. I'm totally with you. Where I loved Top Spin 1 because of like the local multiplayer. Like we had just one day of my friends and I playing 4 players, playing doubles in Top Spin on the original Xbox. Genuinely some of my favorite multiplayer gaming sessions ever. Like it gets so intense. And now Top Spin, it went up to Top Spin 4, but the wild thing is now Top Spin 2K25. It's easy to get lost in a sea of sports games, but it's been 13 years since the last Top Spin game.
Whoa. Okay, I'm putting it on the radar. Then I didn't know it had been that long.
It's
Ben, I thought
wild.
they just kept cranking these out like you're like all the sports games.
As long as the last Dragon's Dogma. Like there was a huge gap, and now Top Spin's back. And Huber, for more on your radar for Top Spin 2K25, do you know who developed this frickin' thing?
Ukes.
Yes, your beloved Ukes.
is
No,
Ukes.
no,
It
it's
is
not.
Ukes.
No, it's not.
Oh.
Calm down. Call off the hounds. No. Hangar 13, the Mafia developers.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh.
They've had such a weird journey of like building up that studio to make Mafia 3. Mafia 3 released, and then it's just been silence. Like there's been those reports.
Well, they did the
from-
Mafia remake after that.
Right. But then there was also the reports from Jason Schreier that they were making like an open world music focused action game, and that got scrapped. I think there's some other projects that were booting up and then winding down. And so now they're getting out of the gate with their next big game that's not a remaster, and it's a tennis game. It's so weird for the trajectory of a Mafia studio.
Yeah.
But the good news is Top Spin 2K25, it's not going to be hailed as the greatest sports game of all time or anything, but something about video game tennis, man, it is so satisfying. And like for Top Spin here, like every shot you take, every move you make, there's the little...
Every breath you take.
That's exactly it. As you're having a very intense tennis match, there's just the little meter, the time button press for every shot. And that just makes it so immediately compelling to be like, okay, if I time this exactly right, I will have a more powerful shot. And it's almost like a Mario RPG or Sea of Stars level thing of just like, if you just have a time button press happening on a regular basis in a game, and you combine that with a tennis game like this, where it's like also the strategy of where you're aiming and all that nonsense in there, like it just makes for such a compelling little simple loop. And I think compared to most sports games, if you're jumping into a Madden game now, I'd imagine it'd be pretty intimidating. But like tennis, it's the easiest damn thing in the world. And imagine that with just time button press, like you can get the hang of this immediately. You know exactly what to do if you jump in, and it's just freaking fun. And I am waiting for an opportunity to play local multiplayer for this thing. I don't know if they have 4-player support for local, but I'm hoping to rekindle some of that love because it's been fun so far.
Do they have weird mini games? I always love that about Virtua Tennis.
No.
Like, hitting the bowling pins or
Yeah, and like especially because that's like how you train and build up your stats in Virtua Tennis, right? Yeah, none of that in Top Spin that I've seen so far, at least. I definitely want more wackiness. But even Mario Tennis, I love too. And I was just thinking back to, I think it's Mario Tennis on the 3DS has the wildest mode where, do you remember this, Hubert? Where they just have Mario 1 playing on the other side of the tennis court, and you have to hit the enemies in Mario 1 so that Mario can progress. So you're like trying to aim to take out like the Koopas and Goombas and stuff in Mario 1. Then you just play through all of Mario
I
1
forget
in
that.
Mario Tennis. It was a cool idea. Anyways, yeah, Top Spin, it doesn't have like a huge story campaign or something like the basketball games or something. It doesn't have a really engrossing thing there, but simple, good tennis game from what I've played so far.
I haven't played a tennis game beyond Wii Sports until Virtua Tennis on Dreamcast on Giant Bomb's Extra Life this past November, and I was blown away how fun that thing was. That was probably the most fun game we played.
Right? It's easy to overlook, but it's like, oh no, tennis is the perfect video game sport.
It really is. The round-based nature of it, the little pauses with the replay. That game is so cool because it looks like, 90s TV footage of a tennis game. Like
Right.
the zooms, it feels like CCTV footage almost in the replays. There's something so cool about the style of it. Like going for realism in the Dreamcast era, it holds up weirdly well.
Yeah, totally. And also just tennis games, there's something so satisfying about just hitting that dead zone in the other person's half of the court and just like, you were always looking for those opportunities when you can just really dunk on somebody in a multiplayer match. And like tennis is the perfect example. It's like, oh, you're effed. And you just get to hit it and it's so satisfying. And
You see him like lunge for it. They're
yeah,
like, "Ugh."
right. But like, maybe I'm not good enough at fighting games to have enough of those moments. It's like, oh, you left yourself wide open, sucker. But that is the thrill, I think, of tennis multiplayer. So Top Spin 2K25.
On my
Janet.
radar. Yeah, what's your
Janet?
hype check on Challengers, Ben?
What is Challengers?
It's the tennis
It's a
movie
movie
with
with
Zendaya
actors,
coming
I
out.
fear.
Oh, I haven't seen this. Does it look good?
It looks really good.
YouTube picked up on the idea that apparently I liked watching a lot of Zendaya clips. And so it's just like feeding me a ton of like quirky interviews that she's done, the kind of like highlights from all of her press tours. Turns out quite a damn charmer. And I had no idea that she was on Dancing with the Stars. Like that was one of her first things after like a couple of small appearances, and she was just on that show. So then I watched like her Dancing with the Stars appearances. Maybe it was bordering on the creepy, how much down this rabbit hole I went. But,
Where is YouTube getting this
Wait.
impression?
That's what I was about to ask. Like when you say YouTube, like started feeding you this.
Yeah.
Was that based on prior like watch or
No,
like
I
one
didn't even
day?
know who she was. I
Probably
didn't even know who she
Top Spin, dude.
was.
It knows the tennis. It's trying to get you in.
Yeah, that's
I-
what actually chat was talking about. They're like just in time for the Challengers movie.
Yeah.
I want like a Rusty's retirement style game, but the bottom third of my computer is just Zendaya interview clips. I feel like that's
Who doesn't?
That's the
You can
future.
have that. Just resize the window.
Are you serious? And it's free? Zendaya's free? Hey, Leo, do you know how this whole thing operates?
No.
Well, I'll tell you, you stubborn mule. It's Patreon. Patreon.com/MinMax with 2 N's. You go there, you find a tier that's right for you, something that's sustainable for you, and that keeps this whole operation sustainable here. We just had a big update over there on Patreon. If you check it out, you go to that URL, there is a public page. You don't have to be a supporter to read this, but we swapped around some tiers. We added some goals. The biggest thing is we added a Dungeons and Dragons goal. For all you out there, I know who you are, who say, why doesn't MinMax do some D&D? Why don't you stream D&D? That'd be so much fun. We agree. So if we hit our goal, we're going to be streaming a one-shot D&D session in person here. We're going to fly Charles Hart, video editor who helps out with stuff at MinMax here, but also a huge D&D fan. We're going to fly him out to Minneapolis, and we're going to have a lengthy one-shot D&D session with Leo and Sarah and whoever else wants to join here. So you can help us hit that goal if you jump in at even the $2 tier, because if we hit 4,600 Patreon supporters, we will launch into that. Or if we hit a financial number for current Patreon supporters, just so they have an option as well to try and boost us past that goal, that is 24,000, and we're only $900 away. So a couple people jump in at those bigger new tiers, and we can hit this goal and get that D&D thing rolling. So thanks for your support. Thanks for supporting the show there.
I feel like Trek to Shrek was iconic, and
Wow.
partially because it was a marathon live stream, and I wouldn't mind if D&D we kind of went pretty hard. We made it a pretty epic campaign.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun for sure. So you can check that out. You are capable of putting us over the edge right now if you're listening to this by jumping in at even that $2 tier, but there's a ton of other benefits there. We'd appreciate it if you want to help support this whole thing directly, because we might fall off at the end of the month. So jump in right now, please. But thank you, of course. Thank you to some of our bigger supporters. I'm talking about Squarespace. build a website with ease here with Squarespace. It's good enough for Martin Scorsese, for him to do that ad. I always loved Squarespace because Area 5 back in the day, for their co-op series, they'd always would plug Squarespace. I'm like, this does seem like a very cool, easy way to make a website. And LeoVader.com is freaking made with it, so how bad could it be, eh?
And it's a weird one too. My whole website is in the footer because I liked the formatting of those images, but you can do that.
Funny.
Oh, Squarespace.
So this video podcast is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to build a beautiful website, engage with your audience, sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your terms. Leo, let me tell you 3 things I like about Squarespace here. Number 1, the name. That's just straight up fun. Number 2, Squarespace Blueprint. They already got professionally ready to go, curated layouts. You plug it in, you're basically on third base before you even start this whole baseball game of building a website. Hey, stay with me. These analogies are gonna make more sense. Flexible payments, Leo. You can make checkout seamless. Make checkout seamless for your customers with simple but powerful payment tools. Accept credit cards, PayPal, and Apple Pay, and in eligible countries, offer customers the option to buy now and pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. A lot of options if you want to sell stuff on your site. Also, analytics. You know how much I love analytics, Leo. Can't get enough of what people are saying, how they vote for stuff. Can't get enough about trying to read people's habits. And
You're obsessed.
I'm obsessed with it. And Squarespace makes that very easy. You can measure everything with behind the scenes handy analytics. So you can check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you are ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/minmax to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring the show.
Squarespace.
Squarespace. It says in the ad copy, pronounce it with a southern accent. I don't understand why they.
If wearing cowboy hat, tip now.
Hey, do you guys want to know what's coming up next for I'm8bit's plug? Look, I'm8bit, the coolest around, right? I dare you to argue that they're not the coolest around. And then they said, oh, could you plug this on the podcast? And I said, I get to plug this on the podcast? Here's a little hint. Come on. On the I'm8bit online store, we have the Hades original soundtrack. 4-vinyl set of the vinyl soundtrack to Hades. I'd argue one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. So you can check that out on their online set. They have so much going on here. They have the smoke red vinyl, which looks amazing. They have the smoke gray vinyl. These are I'm8bit exclusive edition versions of the Hades soundtrack. I couldn't think of a game soundtrack that I'd want more on vinyl than Hades. I swear to God, like it feels like it's a great fit. You put this on, it would sound so damn good. The music, of course, by Darren Korb, album design by Jesse Tan. Check out I'm8bit's wonderful online store. Check out the Hades vinyl soundtrack. I dare you not to love it. I truly dare you, everybody. Also, while you're there, you can check out their wonderful online store and use the promo code SHOWERPOWER for 10% off everything in that online store, not including pre-orders, but go there. Shower Power is the code until the end of the month. You get 10% off everything thanks to I'm8bit. Truly the finest. And help support I'm8bit because they're supporting MinMax in a big bad way by shipping it a prize each and every week. Whoever has the best questions submitted on Patreon wins a prize thanks to I'm8bit. This week, whoever has the best questions submitted on Patreon, I'm8bit is just going to ship them a physical edition of Toem on the Nintendo Switch. That wonderful indie game. Can you imagine supporting a outlet like us on Patreon, writing in with a question you thought was
First
fun,
win.
but
Second win.
Okay, yeah, you don't even know. And then you submit a question. We like it so much, it makes the show better, and then you get Toem on the Nintendo Switch, just in your freaking mailbox, thanks to
Tell me
I'm8bit.
you're playing Toem?
Yeah.
Toem.
And you're smiling, you're saying, where's the smile coming from? Oh, it's coming from I'm8bit. Thank you.
You check your bank account, you're twice as rich as you were before?
Right. Your mom calls you and says, I love you. I'm sorry for every disagreement we've ever had. Thank I'm8bit. Hey, Jay Herb writes in and says, hey, everybody, what's one game you've played over the past few years that you absolutely love but feel like has flown underneath the radar? If you could shout from the mountaintops with a megaphone for all to hear, what game would you tell them to play? Thanks for all you do and for being goobers. We're not going for goobers, J Herb. We're kind of going
I like
for cool
Goobies.
guys.
That was one of the games I thought of for this.
Okay,
I don't know
Goobies.
how popular Goobies ever got. It's a Vampire Survivors like kind of game, but you're goo. I think Jenny Wyndham nailed it when she said Goobies is Vampire Survivors if it was in a lava lamp.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay.
It's fun.
I
end.
need to see
That's
this.
the pitch.
Goobies. That looks fantastic.
Goobies.
Leo, did I see correctly? Did you just boot up Dome Keeper on Steam not too long ago?
Yeah, Steam Deck.
Okay, it is the perfect Steam Deck game. That might be mine from, I think 2022 is when that game came out. But tower defense, but then you're mining down below, getting resources, coming back up, protecting the shell. Have you played Dome Keeper, Huber? Have we already spread the good word about Dome Keeper for you? It is such a satisfying little loop. I think it's in that vein of a SteamWorld Dig, which I should be sent to hell because I've never actually played SteamWorld Dig, and I understand it's one of the greatest of all
will be.
time. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
good. But Dome Keeper, I think, is my pick for something that not a lot of people know about, but it is so satisfying to play Dome Keeper.
Gallic Z, the Dimensional. It's on Switch. It's like a shoot 'em up.
Yeah, from
Really cool
17-bit.
game. I don't play Switch that often. It's because like just the whole on the go thing. It's like when I'm out and I'm on the go, it's like I'm doing my thing. I'm not like gaming.
Yeah.
But when I'm like on a plane or something or a long car ride, sometimes I'll boot up Galaxy.
Did you play that back when it launched on PS4? I think. Okay, so so 17-bit made that thing. Jake Kasdell over there. But I remember we did a lot of previews for that at Game Informer, and they were going for like, we want the 30 seconds of fun loop from like a Halo game, but in like a space sci-fi shoot 'em up. But like the combat is surprisingly complex for that game. Like the dodges you can do and all that wacky stuff.
Super cool.
Yeah. All right.
I think I the biggest gulf from quality to reception of a game I've played in the last few years might be Cosmos Quick Stop.
Oh,
I think that
yeah.
game is so solid and so it feels like a PS2 game that never existed, which is to say it is a perfect whole vibe of a PS2 game. It's like not missing anything. It just literally feels like that. But it's local co-op, Overcooked kind of. In a just world, it would be as beloved as Overcooked because it's that kind of gameplay with the addition of the joy of running a gas station, which is just a little game, video
Wait, what
game
is this
fantasy.
again?
I love
Even
that.
though like, can you play it alone?
Cosmos Quick Stop. You could play it alone
But why would
or
you, Janet?
with your
Would
beloved.
you recommend? Okay.
I would have played it alone too, but it was just even better with my partner. And yeah, it's literally 70 reviews on Steam, the only platform it released on. I don't know how it's possible. It's such a good game.
Yeah, and I love that. Didn't you find it just by searching like co-op games on Steam? And it's like, oh, what
Yeah.
is this hidden gem? Yeah, that's sweet.
Trusted our guts.
Brody Weller says, hey, y'all, with the question going out to everyone regarding pitching their town for the next MinMax meetup, which, yeah, by the way, still jump over to Patreon, pitch your town for the next community meetup. We're going to do a stream. We're planning on doing it early next week where we're going through all those pitches and trying to sort through them. How do you think that stream's going to go, Leo? Do you think it's going to be one of those things that secretly takes like 5 hours to sort through all these?
Very likely, yeah.
Yeah. But
And we might accidentally really insult some people by the way we react to their,
as
where
long
they
as
were
no one
raised.
just says LA, if I see,
I knew, literally, I don't even know what you're asking, and I have no idea what the question's going to go to.
Yeah.
I assumed it'd be like, if you had to pitch your town, and then I'm like, well, I'm not really going to pitch mine because it's LA, that's obnoxious. And you're going to say, look, I know that you live in LA. I'm sorry, Janet, but I hate LA. I get it. You're from the Midwest. You hate any major city. Wow, you're the first Midwesterner to hate on big
we
cities.
are a major city, first off.
yeah, Janet, have you seen a little thing called the Metrodome? I think we know something about
Look,
cities.
you showed me what you
Culver's and
had,
White
and I was
Castle.
polite enough just to leave it alone. Like, geez, like you hate on LA more than I've ever thought of the entire of
Janet,
the Midwest, and I lived
he's
in the
also
Midwest.
been to
But go
LA
ahead,
more
ask
than
your
you have.
question. Ask your question, Ben. What is your question?
To be fair, I actually kind of like LA. I just don't want to have a community meet up there. The point is, I want to go
Look,
someplace funky and fun
You like
and
LA
different.
as much as you like freaking actors, okay? And that's fine. You don't need
Yeah.
to like LA. I know more about how much you don't like LA than I know about you liking most things.
But
Ben,
Leo,
at this point,
I see where you're going. You're exactly right. It's a town riddled with actors.
Interesting connection, yeah.
Well, how can you like a town that's that inherently insincere? Fake City USA, they should call it, I say. Anyways, Brody Weller asks, what's your favorite thing about LA? Oh, I just realized there's 2 people from LA on this podcast. We're basically outnumbered, Leo. Run! Anyways. No.
Everything about LA
No,
is-
sorry.
is just-
You were.
That's the question.
I'm just messing you. That's a joke question. No, that was a joke question, but now Huber, because your ball started rolling, you got to actually answer it. What is your favorite thing about LA?
The Dodgers.
Or Dodgers. Yeah, they should dodge living in that city. So Brody says, hey, everybody, I saw you're all pitching your hometown, so the next community meetup. I saw a couple of comments mentioning Next Level Pinball Arcade Museum in Hillsboro, Oregon. Now that's a town. Now that's a city, Janet. It's been voted as the best arcade in the world multiple times in a row. It got me thinking, what's your favorite arcade memory from growing up? From now when arcades are starting a nice comeback. Yeah, they're there.
Does Pizza Hut count as an arcade when I was a kid?
Yeah, any place with cabinets, I feel like that's
Alright,
fair
sweet.
game.
The Pizza Hut by my house had Mortal Kombat 1.
Ooh.
And it was just the classic time period where people would put the quarter, on the machine for who would be next. So
Yeah.
just anytime we'd go to this Pizza Hut, my brother and I would just put our quarters up there and try to do our best amongst the fighting game professionals.
And is that, I'm trying to remember the timeline. Then it was just like happy coincidence that the Genesis version of Mortal Kombat was better because you're a Sega kid, or was that connected directly?
But I got a Genesis because Mortal Kombat had blood in that version, and we played definitely at Pizza Hut first.
Right.
We fell in love with Mortal Kombat at Pizza Hut. That was like our gateway into it.
You don't hear at Pizza Hut first in gaming anymore, and I really miss that.
Yeah.
I feel like we've
No.
lost something with that change.
Yeah.
I mean, it is wild. Like it made me love Metal Gear Solid with that demo disc at Pizza Hut that had the demo of Metal Gear Solid 1, and it's influencing more gamers than you think. Also, Reggie Fils-Aimé got his start at Pizza Hut. I think Pizza Hut secretly
Really?
a juggernaut. Yeah, he was the CEO, super high up at Pizza Hut. I
No
forget exactly
way.
what it was.
That's why I tried a Nintendo game. I said, "Oh, the pizza guy's doing."
How do you think his pizza skills are going to transfer into gaming leadership?
A lot of buzz
I don't
about
know.
that. Yeah.
Something about it. Doing a front to back of Michael Jackson's The Moonwalker was pretty fun in the modern era. And as a kid, I didn't really go to arcades. Like, I don't think we really had many
Yeah.
around. I don't know if Chuck E. Cheese had arcade games, right? But we didn't go to Chuck E. Cheese, so we just didn't have any arcade games. But there's a great arcade in Chicago called
Galloping
Gosh,
Ghost.
it's been so long. No,
I've been there.
forget
That's
the
really
name
cool.
of it.
I love that place.
Yeah, there's like a lot of like cool arcades, but I forget the name of it. There were two locations, but one of them, if you go to the one that's like not downtown, South Loopy kind of area, like it's free. All the games are free. Which I was really disheartened to learn that that's not true at most arcade. Like it's a barcade, so like
Yeah.
all the games are free. But a lot of arcades, they're not all free. Like they're cheap, but they're not free. So I was like, I really wish they were all free. Anyway, so this one was completely free, and you could just hit continue. It's kind of their like the new shtick of a lot of barcade angles where it's like, oh, you can just go, you don't have to pay extra.
Yeah.
So I was playing with my friend, and we're like, do you want to just finish it? And we just finished the game, and it was like a cool thing because unless you just had that level of skill and or money, that wasn't really feasible for I think a lot of people. So getting to do
Right.
a quick front to back was like really fun, like in a traditional arcade experience.
With Michael Jackson, it'd
Totally.
be back to front if it's moonwalking, I guess. But yeah, I totally hear you. You got to convince Haley McLean that that's a real game because she refuses to believe it based on a previous episode. of the
Honestly,
podcast.
like it totally sounds like a troll
oh yeah,
like nod to like throw out there for sure.
Have you-
Also, too, want to shout out when Leo and Sarah came to LA and we went to that one arcade.
Oh,
it
yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah.
fun, like going to an arcade with more people and like I don't know, just like playing games and me and Sarah holding hands with those little virtual people and doing our little dances and stuff. Like it was a good time.
yeah.
That was a great experience. Mine is similar to Huber's in that it is fighting game related. There was this arcade called Rusty Quarters in Minneapolis that existed for 2 years tops before they went out of business.
Rusty Quarters. That sounds pretty seedy.
It's yeah, it was actually pretty nice. But it was like, the only arcades that survive these days are barcades, and it was like for kids to come to after school, and they just couldn't make enough money doing that, selling popcorn. But we got into Street Fighter 2 and we played it until the place closed, and then went home and ordered fight sticks online because I was like, I want to get
Yes.
into Street Fighter now, and I need it to be the same experience as the arcade.
Yeah.
Yep. Changes
and
your
it
feeling.
blew my whole paycheck on 2 fight sticks for the house, and it was so worth it. That's fine the next few months.
That's
The
sweet.
rules.
Yeah, I made a whole video on MinMax's YouTube channel a while ago about my love for Sunset Riders in the arcade at this old lake. I used to go, oh, Huber, you seem like a Sunset Riders man.
Oh yeah.
It's so good. Have you ever played Mystic Warriors?
Why does that sound familiar?
It's like the
Maybe?
spiritual successor to Sunset Riders, but you're like ninjas. And it's wild because you're walking through like you're modern day ninjas and you're walking through in the first level like a movie drive-in, and they have like a movie version of Sunset Riders playing on the big screen. It's sweet.
Cool.
But I was thinking about like more modern stuff, and when I was in Japan, I was in Osaka for a Game Informer cover story. I think it was like the Mega Man 11 cover story. But we had a wild thing where we just went to the arcade with some Capcom folks, and one of the people that tagged along was, I think her name was Janet, and I guess she's very popular amongst the fan base because she's the localizer for the Phoenix Wright series. Like her writing for the Phoenix Wright series was world renowned, and so it was fun to like go and play like the Luigi's Mansion arcade game with this
That game is
legend
so
from
good.
Capcom. Yeah. Caroline writes in and says,
Also,
"Yeah,
sorry, real quick, I found the name of it. It's Headquarters Beer Club.
Headquarters.
There's like 2 locations.
sweet." Caroline writes in and says, 2024 is a big year for video games and pop music so far. Ariana Grande name dropped Atari. I missed this. This should have made headlines. Sabrina Carpenter switched it up like Nintendo.
That was my
That's
answer.
a great
yeah.
song.
And most recently, Taylor Swift referenced Grand Theft Auto in one of the songs in her new
That was
album.
my second answer. Damn.
Killing cops like GTA.
What other video game mentions can you think of in music, pop or otherwise, that stand out for you?
I mean, one of the classic ones is like Biggie Smalls, the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. When I was dead broke, I couldn't picture this. Like, I feel like that's probably one of the most iconic, at least from like the hip hop sector. But yeah, there are so many. Eventually, I actually really want to make a playlist of just songs that have hip hop references in them. But I have yet to get around.
Hip hop
to that.
songs that have video game references, you mean?
Sorry, just any song that has a video game reference in it. That's
Now,
what I want to make.
is this too generic? Does Lana Del Rey count with the song video games? Or is that not specific? If she's a fake ass gamer girl,
She
is
doesn't
it?
name anything
Okay,
specific. I think
yeah.
it's too like it's like saying movies. Like
It's not just her listing video games.
no, I do feel like I would have to put that on the playlist. Maybe
I
But
think so.
not-
It's a good way to kick it off, but then like it's
Yeah.
going to be disappointing if you go to
Yeah,
it and like
that's-
expect that it's
I
actually
like
going to
that.
have everything
I like
that
that
you
as a
need
setup.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what is, so I haven't listened to all of Taylor Swift's new album, but what is the GTA reference that she makes?
Oh my god, bro, that album. I'm not done with
Touch
it yet, so bad.
me while your boys play Grand Theft Auto.
Touch
Wow.
me? That's what she says?
Yeah.
Good lord.
They need
And I
to
know
him for
people
the
are gonna
heist.
say, "Oh, the context of it. It's a so high school song, so it's supposed to
Yeah,
be cringy."
they're at a high school party is the context.
Okay.
But so much of that album, I'm not done with it yet, so I don't really want to speak.
No,
about
speak to
but,
it. Come on.
like,
Come on. You're on a
it's
public
like-
forum. Come on, attack Taylor Swift. Come on, do it.
I mean, I think like I'm only a few songs in. I do want to like see it through just to see what it has to offer, but
Yeah.
it is very like it's really a fall off, I think, lyrically. It's also like just not interestingly produced. It feels like honestly she is parodying herself, which is really unfortunate. Because I think when Taylor Swift hits, like she really does have some really like profound and interesting tracks, but this feels like what people who don't like Taylor Swift say her music is.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, you hate to see it. But like,
Is that the
I don't know who among
consensus?
us hasn't had their favorite artist fall off. Not that Taylor Swift's not my favorite artist. My favorite artist fell off a long time ago. Foo Fighters' last really good album
Right.
was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, maybe she'll come back from this and come out with something fresh, or maybe this is the beginning of the end. I don't know.
I haven't seen what the consensus is. My wife is a colossal Taylor Swift fan, and she likes this album a lot. So I was just going off that, where she wasn't crazy about Midnights, but she's like, oh, this album, I love it. And so, but is the consensus that this is a letdown? Is my wife the outlier? I haven't seen a
I
single
don't know,
review outside
because
of
I
that.
feel like a lot of music criticism is also such a mess. Like, I do not envy music critics at all. There is so many like additional politics in terms of artists that can just decide not to give you access because they don't like that your kind of coverage. And I think that, you know, you hear like rumblings of the potential of that happening in the gaming space. Like, we're not immune to that happening either. But I think artists have so much more control in that regard. I think there's a lot of tepidness, I think, to critiquing artists in general in that space for that reason. So I don't know. I think a lot of the I haven't read a lot of the reviews, but like
Okay.
the criticism
Pretty
has been kind
polarizing.
of like holding the punches a little bit from I
Interesting.
think major outlets. So I don't know. I mean, I think I will know how the industry feels if this still gets a Grammy nom. I think if this gets a Grammy nom,
Right.
they would nominate anything Taylor Swift makes at this point.
I think so. I think they would.
But or we might see like sometimes what you see in like these instances is people get really critical of the thing that comes next. So it's like if you don't have the guts to be critical now, you have the
Yeah.
guts to be critical after you get permission to be critical. So
Yep.
we either see that or that on the next project.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and I'm only like 3 songs into the 30-song album, which is already
it's
maybe
ridiculous.
not a great idea.
It's
so.
a double album. It's a whole thing. Yeah, I think the best way to appreciate Taylor Swift is like, you all have to marry my wife. No, but it's just fun for her like to breathlessly explain why these songs are interesting and what it's revealing about her personal life and interesting angles. And so it's fun to like, we were on a car trip and I was like, yeah, just play me these songs that you were talking about are so interesting thematically. Like, I think my favorite that I heard was that I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, where the entire song is about her being on the Eras tour, singing a bunch of songs about falling in love. But meanwhile, like she was just wrapping up a 6-year relationship with her boy Joe. And like that song I think is cool. And just talking about like, hey, I'm such a pro, I can do this while inside my heart is breaking. And then like, normally I don't like people being cocky, but then she's just, talking about how she can do this and she puts on a smile. No one knows throughout her entire Eras concert tour, which is huge, that she's just dying inside. And then at the end of the song, she just goes, try to come for my job. It's like, Jesus Christ, Taylor. It's such a cool, weird way to end a song after talking about what a pro you are. But anyways, back to your point. I was just listening to an interview with Mega Ran, who obviously does a lot of video game references in the hip hop music and stuff. But he was talking about like being friends with Cisco. And we all know, obviously, from the Thong Song being in the Twisted Metal show, that Cisco's a huge video game fan. And Minneapolis.
Min-Max fan too.
Apparently, what is that story
That's what he
again?
told me.
So he said, I would know you from Min-Max?
Yeah, he was like, he complimented my work at Min-Max, and he says that he likes Min-Max. And I was like, this is also just meeting Cisco is like super cool. So
That's so weird. We were talking to him a little bit. He lives in Minneapolis. Maybe we can have him over at some point. But anyways, apparently Megan was
I
talking
think
about
he'd
like,
agree. He seems really friendly.
I think so. I talked to his manager on the phone and he seemed very friendly too once. But Megan was talking about what a wild Cisco fan, a video game fan Cisco was, and how like he kept texting Mega Ran because he hadn't played Tears of the Kingdom yet. And then it got to the point that Cisco just bought Mega Ran a copy of Tears of the Kingdom. Like, you're blowing it by not playing this. You need to play this right now. So that seems cool. Mikhail Jewel Thompson writes in and says, hey, Bennett cohorts, now that Atari has revived the Infogrames brand, can you please use your connections with Atari to also make them revive the Infogrames theme song? Have you all heard this song?
Let's hear it.
2001, Infogrames released this classic tune. Should be a Taylor Swift song by the vibe of it. Here we go. It's called Infogrames Rocks My World. Oh, hang on. Let's make sure we got the right audio set up here. Leo, based on that scoff, are you saying that Infogrames might not rock your world? All right, here we go.
It was such a setup that I'm like really curious what's going to happen
There's a lot
next.
of appreciation in that laugh.
Here we go.
This NASCAR heat, Tonka Town. Stuntman makes my hair spin round. Beachhead transfer, Freddy 5. Unreal Tournament, test drive. Survivor, civilization. Superman saves the nation. NSYNC hotline, Dragon Ball. Along in the dark, and that's not all.
Hell yeah.
Rocks my world. Entertainment. Rocks my world. Infogrames. Infogrames is innovation. Power of imagination. Infogrames is entertainment that rocks my world. Infogrames is
It goes on and on.
Judging from the panel's reaction, I'm going to say that's white people music.
Hey,
I don't know what you're
I
doing.
can't say it, so thank you, Leo, for being the voice
Iconic.
of the voiceless.
Also, huge influence on Nirvana, the band, the show, apparently. It's basically the Wii Shop
was
jingle
that
before
again?
that.
Like, what was played?
Yeah, what is,
Like halfway through, I like
where
lost
are
the
we?
plot.
That
Like
was-
what?
yeah, what is
What is
going
this
on
again?
there?
This is
That was the national anthem, Janet. This is a track from 2001 that was Infogrames, the publisher, created as a theme song for the company and distributed it to all the employees of the company back then to convince them about how great their entertainment was.
Okay,
It's truly the finest.
I get it.
Yeah.
one of those internal releases,
And so Atari like revived that
as
brand.
every
I'm
worker
gonna-
does.
Yeah, but I'm confused about why Atari's reviving that brand to like bring in other companies and all that stuff. But there's probably some nostalgia for the name Infogrames out there, even though it always was awkward to say. Okay, That's Mildly Raven writes in and asks, why didn't Dino Crisis take off? It was drafting on both Resident Evil hype and Jurassic Park hype. It has a way more marketable name than Resident Evil. I've played Dino Crisis 1 and 2, and neither seem terrible. Why didn't Dino Crisis take off, Huber? What did they do wrong?
I think Dino Crisis 1 is really hard. That is a deceptively challenging game. There's like really annoying inventory management in that game where you can like really box yourself into a corner. There's these like there's these things where you can like choose like, do you want to take ammo or health? And it's like you can like kind of if you make some wrong choices here and there, that can be really tough. I don't know. I mean, zombies or dinosaurs? Like, aren't they like equally popular?
No.
Good question.
You know?
In the 90s, I feel like maybe peak Walking Dead you can make the case, but man, the 90s.
Oh, so you're saying dinosaurs more popular for sure.
the 90s,
That's,
yeah.
that's what your answer was.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't think so?
That's interesting because I assume zombies are more popular, but asking this question, I go, I guess maybe dinosaurs could be as popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because Dino Crisis 1 and 2 are really good, and then 3 is obviously the weird, like, you know, Xbox weird sci-fi game, but
I know you're famous, world-renowned, Huber, for screaming that everything comes back, everything returns.
everything returns.
Do you think we get a new Dino Crisis?
So ominous.
Within
It's kind of scary.
Michael Jackson's Moonwalker will return, Janet, whether you like it or not. Do you think we get a new Dino Crisis in the next 10 years? Do you think it
100%.
happens? 100%, he says.
100%.
Wow. Right
Did
up
it
to
really
news
score
stories
well
now, everybody.
At the time, did it score and sell well at the time?
It was like 7s and 8s probably, I would guess it got back then.
Is there like an ownership issue floating
No.
around? Like,
Capcom.
All Capcom. I mean,
Yeah.
they did.
Shinji Mikami directed the first one.
so do you think when you say we get more, like it will return, are you thinking that we get like a remake or like a new entry / reboot?
I think a reboot / remake of the first one.
And, I think
I feel like that's a solid. I don't know if I agree, but I feel like it's somewhat solid. But I feel like I didn't really, as someone that doesn't really know Dino Crisis outside of knowing that that's the name of a thing.
Yeah.
I think that means it might not be popular enough to bring back. And that's not because I'm the end all be all of like
Yeah.
what is whatever. But it's like
That's a great point.
I've never heard, you know what I mean? Like
It just
I
didn't
don't know
crack
if it's
that
got
threshold.
the legs in that way.
But
does have
now
a really
if you bring
strong
it back,
name,
now if you bring it back, you can just be like, "Yo, Resident Evil with dinosaurs."
Yeah.
Do you think when Exoprimal flopped
True.
too, wasn't that Capcom? That was also like dinosaurs, right?
that was
Are
the
they
thing,
like-
the game that everybody thought was Dino Crisis, but hopefully that didn't turn them off from like, well,
That's
people
what I mean.
don't like
Are they
dinosaurs.
like, you know what?
Maybe that was them testing the
People
waters.
aren't ready.
They can handle it. But I do think like
Maybe they don't like dinosaurs.
Yeah,
if you got,
idiots.
if you got
And
those
I'm like, sure,
teams,
that was the reason. Whatever you need to tell yourself, Capcom.
but like I'd say more than likely probably their next remake is going to be Resident Evil 1 remade again in RE Engine.
Wait for
I would
that.
imagine.
I want that so bad. I know people will be mad because it got remade like 8 times. But I don't want to play the most recent remake. The most recent remake feels really old. It's so old.
Oh,
to
interesting.
play.
So yeah, but in my mind, it's like you remake Resident Evil 1, which is the 4th time it's been remade, kind of sorta. Like that versus Dino Crisis remake, I would think the Dino Crisis sales would just smash another Resident Evil 1 remake. I would.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
No.
Really?
Everyone has to buy
Oh.
Resident Evil 1 remake.
Yeah.
You're contractually
Oh my
obligated
god.
to.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
game would sell so much.
But we've had it so many times. We've had so many remakes.
And I
recently.
want it again. What?
Okay.
Like, yeah, you know, it's like, I know it's dumb, but like,
I mean, it's like over 20 years old, though. It doesn't seem
is
like
really
it because
old,
that
yeah.
game holds up and it's still
Yeah.
so beautiful and it's always re-released on every new system.
Yeah, but then the HD
That's
version, it feels like not too long ago. Was it maybe 8 years ago or
GameCube?
something?
Yeah.
The HD version of the GameCube game. Yeah.
But
GameCube
yeah,
was a
it's
long time ago though. There are people who's like, my first console was the Wii.
Yeah.
Like that's how time has gone, which is hard to accept.
People's first Resident Evil game was Remake 2 or, Remake 4 for a lot of people.
Stop.
It's crazy, yeah.
It's got more fans than ever now, I think. Like, plenty of people haven't had the purchase opportunity presented to them yet for the first one.
Yeah.
I still think Code Veronica Remake is next.
That would be the very cool, smart choice. I just think sales-wise, Huber, if you're a budget man in Capcom, what's selling more, Resident Evil 1 or Code Veronica? Like, I think
Resident Evil 1 is selling like 20 plus million.
Code Veronica. I feel like as someone that doesn't remember anything about what Code Veronica's reputation was, I'm forced to ask myself, was that one of the bad ones? And I think that alone makes Resident Evil 1 the much better sell.
No, it has quirks that they could iron out in the remake is the basic idea, that you can kind of screw yourself over in it or whatever. But
which ones are the bad ones? Can we just get clarification on that?
Absolutely.
As like someone
Just
that's newish to Resident Evil?
Just 6.
Just 6?
And
okay.
0, I don't really like 0.
Raccoon
Is 6 the one with the
City.
weird co-op thing?
6 was co-op, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I
I've
guess
heard
just
about that. Heard
mainline
stories.
Leo. We're not counting the zipper shooters and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's some spin-offs here. Just the
Don't
main
worry about
games,
it.
just 0 and 6.
Yeah. God, I think it was on Easy Allies where there was that rumor that popped up because of, I think, like job listings, like, oh, it looks like Resident Evil 9 might be open world. And I was like, okay, sure. But then this is so stupid. But then when somebody said open world Raccoon City, I was like,
Yeah.
that would be really cool to experience. Like just the full city running around, like just have that section of Resident Evil 3, but just blown out in a huge way.
Oh, the dream.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I wonder how open it would be though, because I can't imagine it being like a literal open world. I feel like the most open you can get is like Last of Us, that one section.
Yeah, I
Where
mean,
like you can be on a horse.
why couldn't they do it open world?
I feel like it is hard to create both open space and like the tightness of horror.
Evil Within 2, the best.
They did it.
They do it the best, Janet, because it's
I'll go
like,
play it and I'll come back and be like, I don't think Capcom can make that.
because the
Then again, I don't know.
open world parts are like pretty small,
Okay.
and then you'll get to a new area.
But then is that wide linear? Is that open though?
Hub structure.
Or was it open at the time?
Because Village, I almost would call open world. It's like
Or open zone.
it's hub and spokes or whatever.
Yeah.
more so. And I guess this would be a little further in that direction.
True, yeah.
Villas writes in, I guess this isn't a question, but when the D&D game gets funded, if it gets funded, if we hit our goal on Patreon, so we need the community to jump in and help us out, Ben should work with the DM to make a D&D version of Sid from Final Fantasy VII. Sarah needs to be a hot anime boy with long white hair like Sephiroth, and Leo should be Agent 47 in D&D form, whose default disguise is Blumpo. This can all be achieved in D&D, 100%, says Villas.
Wow. I would love to be playing a character from the start and the real me is not known.
Ooh.
A character within a character.
Right. Your greatest role yet. Will E writes in and says, hey, Min-Max, how do you manage side quests? I started up Yakuza 7 like a dragon, and I know people love the sub-stories in this game, but being on my 8th Yakuza game, I feel like I just didn't like doing them. Yet I wish there was a way to know which sub-stories are worth it or are the best. I tried looking it up, but I didn't find much. I wish there was a resource for information about side quests, such as telling which are the best, how long they are, the length. Yeah, there needs to be like that site Co-Optimus, which is really helpful for like, this is when the co-op ability, you can start to play co-op in this game, yada, yada, yada.
I never heard of that site.
Oh, it's very handy. It's a how long to beat category of just helpful
New
little
bookmark
site.
just dropped. Let's go.
Great site.
But it'd be fun to have that for side quests. I'm just like, prioritize these side quests. This is meaningful in this way without spoiling it.
Stellar Blade kind of color codes them, which I liked. Like there's like blue ones and yellow ones, and the blue ones are like a little more character story focused.
Okay. All right, that's something.
Yeah, the last like 6 months to a year, I've like kind of turned on side quests. They've just been like dragging me down.
Yeah.
Because there are so many now. Like, obviously Final Fantasy Rebirth is one of the newest examples, and Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, and it's like, I think such a big thing about it is the pacing of them. I feel like so many games now, you'll get to a point where it's like, okay, you're at the side quest part now, where you do side quests for the next 4 hours straight, and then you get back to your main quest. And it's just like every time then, because I'm a completionist like that, so it's like, all right, I'll do all these. But then by the time I get back to the main storyline, I'm like a little more fatigued.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tough. But then at the same time, my completionist brain is like, well, you don't want to miss out on the XP or the gear. You don't want to miss out on like the cool little side stories from these side characters. Like you don't want to miss anything. It's like, I don't know.
That's super valid. I feel like I tend to do side quests in games I'm liking because it's like, whatever, I'll play the maximum amount of this game I'm having a good time with. But then it like burns me out before I get to finish the story. And it's like, I kind of wish I finished more games, even if that meant letting the side quests go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Like that whole PS5 guide thing that I feel like no one talks about, where the idea was, oh, we'll guide you for each chapter of a game, let you know how close we are.
The like blades or whatever
yeah,
they were hyping up.
That whole interface thing that no one ever uses or talks about. Like, I would love that type of interface, but just like give me an extra system level overlay nudging me in side quest directions. Or if it's like, you really don't want to miss this one. Like those proto-relic quests are really cool in Rebirth. Check them out for sure. Just some little extra nudge. And I feel like 16 kind of had that. I'm trying to remember. I think there was like a different icon, no pun intended, for like this one's more
like
serious.
A plus icon would be like you're going to unlock something by doing this side quest.
Right. And they're typically
Appreciate
a little
that.
meatier. No problem, Leo. The Juan one says, hey, Minimax crew, what is your hype check for Metaphor ReFantazio after the game was shown more from the Atlas Direct on Monday?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 for hype for Metaphor.
10 out of 10. This is the Persona team. Persona freaking 4 and 5, to me, two of the best JRPGs ever made. Very excited for this. I think it's a terrible name, though. A 0 out of 10 name.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, because it would have been weird if you didn't, So I appreciate that.
But now it's the ultimate challenge. Like, can the game be so good that it blasts through how stupid calling a game Metaphor ReFantazio is?
I'm
Tired of this. I feel like it's all the time. Unicorn Overlord? What the are we doing? Hire one person to give these games normal names. I don't care if they're accurate to the translation. Give them a totally new name.
It's like just... It's like spending years baking a cake, working your ass off with teams of hundreds of people, and then putting it in a box with a piece of shit on the cover of it. It's like, what? No! Yes. Like, you're just hurting everything.
And we're going to call it, this game's boring and sucks.
Yeah, but actually, Unicorn Overlord, Leo, is pretty sweet. So
I totally believe it. Not a statement on the quality of the games whatsoever.
Wouldn't it have to be, though? But yeah, Leo, I appreciate seeing what your ranking point is, just generally. So thank you for sharing that with everybody. You're like, what? That was my favorite part of the show. Like, we don't really do anything for the favorite part of the show, but that was it.
Yeah.
My hype level is, I honestly think this is like so terrible to like be and admit, but I feel like if this game could be a 10 out of 10, I'd be like, yeah. I'll see you over there. You go ahead though. I'll be there after you. Like I said, this is me texting you. I'm on my way. Haven't gotten dressed yet. Like, I am so sorry. I just don't see it. There's so many lengthy games out right now, and I'm really trying to be better about picking my spot on like, this one I'm gonna finish. Again, unfortunately, some of those games are also really long, so it's like I'm still playing Rebirth. Yay! It's great.
Yeah.
We're having a great time. It's just so long, so it's like, can I pick up something like the odds are so low? Is the thing.
Sure.
So I can't imagine playing it even if it's like incredible, because there's so much ahead of it already.
Totally. I still haven't gotten to Persona 3 Reload.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm putting that above Metaphor for sure.
I think it's a blessing, Janet, that you get to experience Rebirth for so long, though. It's like over 100 hours or whatever the hell. Like, can you imagine just the gift of having a birthing process that lasts over 100 hours? That's how good Rebirth is.
Only a man could have made that statement, I feel like.
Just imagine how
Truly.
What? Anyways, Canadian writes in and says, Leo, how is Jump Rope going?
Good. Canadian's the very bloke who recommended it to me, looking for workout tools for my house. And a really good one because it is high impact in a short amount of time, easy to fit into the schedule. And I don't want to be doing it for too long anyway, because I don't want to be a bad upstairs neighbor jumping around.
But you're sticking with it?
Yeah, I mean, it fell out of my routine, and now I do it like once a week or two, maybe. But I aspire to get back into it for sure.
Yeah.
Have you ever played that Jump Rope game on Switch?
No.
I think it's called, oh my gosh, what is it? Check and tell me. It's literally just I mean, it might just
Jump
be
rope
called
challenge, I
but-
think it's just called.
Yeah, jump rope challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't they
that's like-
delist it or something insane like that?
No, they were going to, but then they like walked that back. So I
Those
think it's still
cowards.
available. But I would love if you would tab over and actually finish that Google search because I do not know. But yeah, same vibe with the jump rope. Are you doing
With the Joy-Cons?
Leo? Are you looking to do like the super elaborate jump rope style, or are you just like going the classic? I'm
going
over
the
it?
classic. I'd love to get elaborate sometimes.
Because I really want to get elaborate, but it's like, how do you get
Yeah.
there without breaking your neck? If you could figure that out for me and carve that path, I would love to walk down that road with you.
I would definitely hate to be doing it at a gym where they can see how many times my feet get caught in it.
Oh yeah, it's so embarrassing, but it is super. It's the fastest way just to get the heart rate up. I feel like compared to sprinting around the block or something like that. It's just so nice. Like, okay, I do this for 15 minutes and I feel like I ran a marathon. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like the next Final Destination movie should have a jump rope section for sure.
You think like
They started making
choking or
those, right? Like the
There are
last
new
one is
new one's coming out.
really.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys
People
remember
died.
the one that if you bought the DVD, which yes, I had the DVD, you could have they had like a choose your own adventure section.
What was
You
that?
could-
They had a
Right.
special proproprietary name for that. I
Yeah, it was
totally
like
did that with my friends.
freaking it was freaking Dark Pictures before Dark Pictures.
really?
So cool.
Yeah, certain characters would live or die based on your decision.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
This
It's
is
like a
blowing
classic
my mind.
select your own kind of path, similar to any other game that has that functionality or show or whatever. But I forget which one it was. I don't know if it was the one that had the tanning booth, but it was one of the iconic
yes,
old
I think
ones.
that was, and it was Final Destination 3, which carries a choose their fate option. I'm reading here.
Oh,
So they just shot
wait.
extra
I feel like we
scenes?
don't get and look, I'm not a horror person, so I'm not trying to like misspeak on the horror genre or something. But I feel like we don't get those like movies that are actually like kind of probably just mid movies, right? That end up being cultural like huge touchstones because everyone on Earth like knows early Saw, knows early Final Destination. And like lived in it in a way that doesn't really happen anymore.
Lived in it,
There's like better stuff out now, but I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, give me that roller coaster song playing in the tanning booth. Let me walk down Home Depot and think of this film for the rest of my life.
The horror that picks up now is like the quality, the good stuff.
Yeah.
Prestige.
Although, I mean, it's not our cup of tea, but like the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, trash, but also made $40 gazillion at the box office. Like, is that the new equivalent?
I
But
mean,
are
it
you gonna
probably is, of
remember-
course,
we need a
something with a
mid-movie-
teen being a teenager.
Yeah.
We need a mid movie that everyone watched though. Like we're all aside, you know what I mean? And also like again, I enjoyed.
Wait,
at the
Janet,
time,
it's the Mario
Final
movie,
Destination.
if we're being honest. The Mario movie is the
What are
mid
we
movie
gonna
that
reference
everybody
back
watched.
to?
I can't stop
I
quoting
don't know.
it.
It's just,
reference
it was
that?
just a moment in time. It's fine. Time goes on, and
Uh-huh.
you gotta let it go on. But it's wild how that existed.
Totally.
I know exactly what you mean.
Tanner Hoisington wrote in, says, I was thinking about how Balatro had to be on the end of the year best soundtracks episode of the podcast. And then it hit me that the soundtrack for Balatro is literally just one song. It's just manipulated in different ways depending on the screen you're looking at. So Tanner asks, what is the last single track OST you can think of for a game? Is there any other game that works if it's just reduced down to one song?
Are they playing other sones in Pac-Man? Is there even a song? It's just like in between the
Well,
in
there's like
between the boards, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, you got like a little
Okay, that
cutscene
goes
jingle, I
alright.
suppose. Like the,
I'm sorry. Can you do that again?
Well, I mean, Tetris on Game Boy, that had more than the one song, right? You had like a
Yeah, because you could select the songs.
there's
and
like
all
A
the
or B or
songs
whatever.
hit.
Yeah. The one I thought of was on mobile, but Super Hexagon, where it's just one song, but every time you started that game, it would jump to a different point in that song. But then I found out that I just never made it past the first world, and there's apparently other tracks in that game. But to my mind, that's just one song drilling it that's so damn good.
Most have
Backstage
one
Pass-
OST if you're bad enough at the game, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Or
Good
quit
point.
right away. Backstage Pass says the Wii Store. Song.
Single
Yeah.
track
Wii Store,
OST
great
for the Wii
pick.
Shop. Yeah, I suppose there's something like that. I think it's just it has to be mobile or eShop, something simple like that, where it just loops one song. But it is nice that for people putting hundreds of hours into Balatro, nobody's complaining about the song being on loop. You know,
love that song.
Huber, Balatro in your top 3 for the year, you think?
3 to 5, 3 to 5
3 to
for
5,
sure. Top
okay.
5 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jacob Cummings writes in and says, missed joke opportunity. And this is the type we're looking for, Leo. They say,
Yes.
last week, nobody said the joke, why does a chicken coop have 2 doors? Because if it had 4, it'd be called a chicken sedan. and Jacob says, I think it's just a shame that no one made the joke on the podcast last week.
Every moment is a joke opportunity.
Yeah, but Jacob's the first to really capitalize on it. Notice that. Connor McCabe writes in and says, how do y'all feel about your own handwriting? I just looked at my own and it nearly gave me an existential crisis. I think about this a lot. It's like, you think about all the things you're attached to in your life and like what really represents me. I feel like handwriting, unsung hero of like, that is a bond with that handwriting. It really, we've seen it a lot. Think of how many papers you've written with it throughout all of school. And like, I've gotten weirdly sentimental about handwriting where, Leo, you know it, like our lake place, which is just kind of like a garage on a lot or whatever.
Yeah, I'm living there now.
Oh, great. I hope you're enjoying it. That arcade's pretty sweet. But don't look at the high score for Robotron because it's vulgar. But anyways, the point is like that used to be my grandma and grandpa's place. And there's still like scraps of paper with like my grandpa's handwriting about like, this is the drawer for the screws or just like a bunch of random stuff like that. And I was just realizing like, we're probably down to like 2 pieces of paper on planet Earth with my grandpa's handwriting. And I got really weird thinking about it. But yeah, how y'all feel about your handwriting?
It's so
hideous.
ugly.
Ooh, is this New Show Plus of you try and guess everybody's handwriting? Guess the cohort
Yeah, but
handwriting?
please be careful how you name it.
Uh,
I don't even want to hear your thoughts yet. Just
I don't
everyone
understand.
go into the meeting.
I don't even know where you're going with this. I genuinely don't. Wait, is there some weird sensitive area about guessing handwriting that I'm not coming up with?
I just feel like the hand puns, it's like, watch out. Like,
Oh,
please.
okay.
Like, let's all take 1 step back before we take 2 steps forward, okay?
Sure.
Yeah, mine's really ugly. My brother told me that it used to be nice, and that when I was really young, he made fun of how nice my handwriting looked, and that I then started purposefully writing ugly, and then it stuck. I have no memory of this. This is what I was told. So that sucks. I've thought about literally taking like an online course to fix it, because even though I can mostly read it, it is so bad that like there are times where I do not know what I wrote.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe we should fix this because it is really, really bad.
I don't think my handwriting is beautiful at all, but the fact that I can read it, I have learned in my adult life, makes it good handwriting.
Yeah.
It's like above the average, it feels like.
I've never held my pen or pencil the right way. I never learned how to hold it correctly.
Right.
And so
right.
mine, I think, is...
the fork at IKEA, yeah.
Yeah, so I think mine's especially maybe a little bit rough or different. Yeah. I actually put it in my mouth and draw on it like a prisoner.
You guys have a good signature?
It's fine.
Okay. I feel like I like it. I feel good about it.
Wait, this is a fraud question. This is a phishing test.
Oh yeah, oh man.
Uber, get out of here!
Damn it.
Come on, man. We're trying to have a good time.
Oh my god. Why did I give Huber the last 4 digits of my social security number?
He seems so nice.
I
do
just
like my-
little lines. They're just like.
Yeah.
My signature was like my uncle doodled one for me when I was 11 or 12. He's a designer for a living, and I was like, great, I'll do that, and then I did it through now.
That's
Free
sweet.
commission? That's great.
Yeah, that's cool. Leo, did you ever go to the GameStop Managers Conference?
Never did.
It was the place to be, party of the century. But I went a couple times, and that was like the most I ever thought about my signature, because I am acknowledging this was weird, but everyone was very nice. But they had just like a whole area where a bunch of publishers and stuff like that, and Game Informer would always have a booth at the GameStop Managers Conference, and there would be a big line where people would line up and they would get Game Informer posters, and we'd sign the posters. And so it really was like 4 or 5 hours straight of just signing your name, and like it makes you think about your signature way too much to do it for that long of a time. But then again, I think there's a lot of complaining about it, but it's like, how often in life do you get to sign autographs for hours on end? Like, very few people get this luxury. It's just a weird thing to do and experience.
You also get the luxury of not having to do it so often. It makes you want to tear your hair out. You just
Right.
got it as a life experience almost.
Yeah, exactly. Janet, you mentioned your brother. What tickled me most about you doing Spiciest Interview this week is I feel like Isaiah and your brother sent some deep cut questions our way, and none of them fazed you. There was no like, Jesus Christ, how do you know that? It was like, oh, okay, Stuffed Animal League, here it is. It's like everything was just like you were expecting all of it, and I was so shocked.
Yeah, I think it's because I've shared so many things about myself online. I just assumed
okay.
I'm like, you can just get that from if you've followed for long enough. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Leo, we should have just done ChatGPT for coming up with all these Spicy interview questions. What
But I
do
mean,
we
I
think?
still I still appreciated how
Because of
detailed
the
they were.
algorithm.
Okay.
But they didn't like shock me.
Wow. Okay.
It's just more like, oh yeah, like I mean, literally, I blogged about like my boxing classes before. I mean, I didn't mention like fighting that girl, but
little baby girl,
yeah,
to be very clear.
it was a fun time. Always a fun time with Leo.
All right.
Yeah, it was
Leo,
great.
And I would say that even if he wasn't here, but I'll definitely say it because he is here.
that's sweet.
It does help. Thank
The man who brought us Stitch and Sping, the finest in the land, I say.
The Sping Stitcher himself.
Yeah.
All right. What do you guys like for a question of the week?
Wait, are we not going to answer the bad mechanics, good story one?
Oh, I
because
ended
I looked up a game for that.
Yeah,
Like,
what do you
can
want-
we-
what do you
can
want?
you ask that so I can just edit this in post? Like,
Yeah,
can you
yeah,
ask
yeah.
it?
Yeah, I'll try and find that exact person. But the question was an example of a game with great story, bad mechanics.
Yeah.
Janet, what is your answer for that?
Oh, I'm glad. Thank you, community writer. I'm glad you asked.
I'll find their name.
3/4 Home. I love this game. The story is incredible.
That was a tornado one?
Yeah. I'm surprised you know that. I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
sure how popular it was. It's like a really old game from like, what, 2015 or something? A visual short story. It's set in Nebraska. You are having a conversation between like yourself and a family during a drive in an intense thunderstorm.
Yeah.
And the story is awesome. Like if you like story, 100% go get this game, play it. It's also like super cheap as well. It's like $5 on Steam, $5 on the eShop. But the gameplay sucks because most of the time you're driving and you have to hold like A to drive. And it just kind of like, I get like they want you to do something and it's cool because when you stop driving, the story stops as well. So like that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But bro, it hurts your hands.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is an awesome game. Like I would rate that game still very highly. Like if I were to give it a score, because I think it's an incredible story. But yeah, the gameplay, no, it just hurts your hand. I'm like, I wish I could just auto drive it.
Yeah.
Like in the settings because it's painful to play, but awesome narrative.
Yeah, Thomas Deranek wrote in with this question. So they said, yeah, my personal answer would be Final Fantasy 15. Well, I know people complained about the car and weird combination of linear and open world segments. The credit sequence had me in tears for Thomas. Yeah, my answer is Wander Song, which is a game I really love, but it's the game from the creator of Chicory, the game they made right before that. That game, the story and the writing is so good, and it's charming. The presentation, the art style is cool. It's kind of, the puzzles a little frustrating throughout. I think a lot of this, when I think of this example of, or this idea of great story, gameplay is frustrating, it's always adventure games to me. It's always something with just kind of puzzle games that are too obscure. I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of the old LucasArts stuff falls into this camp. Grim Fandango is like, well, that's the best game ever. Except playing it is kind of frustrating on a constant basis. But other than that, it's the greatest game ever made, you know?
Not an answer to this question, but this reminds me, I did just finish Norco. I finally went back and
Norco. I like
Nice.
Norco.
Really great game, and
Yeah.
has adventure game mechanics that don't get in the way of it. At least there's like a difficulty option that I played on where it's like, I don't want to get stuck on puzzles, and then you never do.
Yeah.
So it's a really worthwhile experience.
Vampire would be mine.
Ooh, yeah, great suggestion. Where you really
Story is
wanted to love it.
cool. World is cool.
At some point, Hubert,
Combat stuff.
I feel like we need to unpack Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden because it feels like it's the sister game from Don't Nod now for Vampire.
Yes. Very similar. Yeah, totally.
All right, what do y'all like for a question of the week? If I may remind you, there's the arcade stories, video game songs, the Infogrames songs, Dino Crisis, of course, Jump Ropes,
Good.
handwriting, single
It's
track.
tough because I feel like we got, and this is partially my fault, because I feel like we got so off topic on every single question that it's
Yeah.
hard to attribute the conversation to.
I think
any
no, I
question.
think you do. No, you assign
You have
the
to.
quality of the conversation to what was
Whatever
sparked it.
made Leo snap, the hype level for
Oh, interesting.
something
Metaphor
Fantasia,
Refazio.
whatever. It's not going to matter, Ben. Come on.
No, that's interesting. That's interesting. Where do you all stand on this idea of giving that the the nod because it shattered Leo's brain?
I just liked Leo snapping.
Okay.
That's just
Yeah.
that's a personal pick because of that.
Leo,
I like the handwriting one too.
I like handwriting too.
I like handwriting too. That was pretty good.
You know what? Yeah, Janet, forgive us. We're giving it to handwriting. Connor
Handwriting.
McCabe, you won Toem on Switch thanks to I Am 8-Bit. Congratulations. And now it's time for something that we call, get a load of this. All right, step right up, Leo. What do you got? What do you got?
Get a load of this. I had a
Okay.
couple things I could do for this, but I want to use this platform for one thing, and that's to say get a load of the movie Hundreds of Beavers. Go get a load of that movie.
What is this?
It's a modern movie just released on Prime Video for renting. It was in theaters earlier this year. It's a full-length silent movie pretty much, except with sound effects and grunts and music, and it's black and white, and it's a live-action Looney Tunes episode. Essentially, it is every single shot is a new gag, a new visual gag, and I was like, okay, interesting concept. Started watching it. You know, I don't see how this lasts the full length of the movie, and by the end of it, I was more in love with it than I was at the start. I was never wanted it to end. It was so amazing.
That sounds like a great movie to watch on the projector outside, like with a group.
I want to watch it again with the group so bad, and it was just a micro budget, you know, no budget movie shot in the woods over 4 years in Wisconsin, and now it's this amazing movie.
Jeez, what's it called again?
Hundreds of Beavers.
Hundreds of Beavers. All right, I got to write that down. That sounds good. Get a load of this. Gamefile, a friend of the show, Steven Sotelo over there, had a long interview with Donald Mustard after leaving Epic, talking about the origins of Fortnite, all this fun stuff. But he got him to talk about the idea that, okay, it was going to be the big push. We're going to get Master Chief in this game. We're going to get, Kratos. I'm trying to remember who else was in that batch. And then we're going to get Samus for Metroid. But Nintendo was like, yeah, that sounds great. We're fully on board. I mean, Samus can't be on other systems. Like, it just needs to be a Nintendo Switch exclusive to have Samus on there. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. And I guess they just butted heads and eventually had to call off the entire Samus thing, which leaked. Like, it was far long enough to leak because Nintendo just could not handle the idea of Samus being effectively a free promotion for their game on other consoles. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Metroid Dread could have doubled their sales, Leo. Just imagine.
Get a load of this. Mine is, I've been using Notion a lot this year, which I am really, really enjoying. I just tried to do it a little bit last year, but it didn't really click. So I want to give a shout out to this YouTube video called How to Get Started in Notion Without Losing Your Mind. Notion for Beginners. It is a 16-minute video with plenty of timestamps so like that you can, jump right to what you need. And I loved it as basically what the video is a thing you can just quickly replicate that still has some level of aesthetic, because sort of the pitch is like, hey, don't worry about like making it exactly as pretty as you want it to be. But here's also some space where you can like quickly put like a photograph or select something so that it doesn't also look completely hideous. Like, it is a quick get it up and running, get it off the ground. And I found that so helpful. And I've honestly like built out all of them. Like, all of everything I have in Notion started from this 16-minute, which really in terms of the core content, like 10-minute setup video. So yeah, shout out to that, link down below.
Get a load of this. Everything returns.
What
is old is new again. They are re-releasing The Mummy and Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace in movie theaters.
What? Really?
So check them out if you haven't. I mean, I'm sure you've seen Star Wars, but The Mummy.
Mummy in
the
theaters.
Mummy in the theater, that is just a good time.
Oh,
I love the ride, so maybe the movie would also be
that ride is intense.
Movie's so fun.
That is a good
Classic.
one. Totally. Get a load of this. Hugo, the artist who came up with the new MinMax banner there, they shared in the Get a Load of This channel in the Discord from MinMax here that the sound design Tears of the Kingdom GDC panel that Janet, you talked about before on the episode of Bonus Pod, that is now up on YouTube. It was in the GDC vault. I think somebody just ripped it and put it up on YouTube, but there's a link below if you want to watch the developers of Tears of the Kingdom go big behind the scenes on the physics of the sound design in that system, which is some good geeky stuff. But hey, that is it for this long episode of the MinMax Show. Thanks everybody for watching or listening to this episode. Janet, you have something you wanted to plug?
Yeah, I just finally put up my review of Botany Manor over on my website, pen2pixels.com. So if you're looking for a longer kind of conversation on that game and what I ultimately think of it, score it, all that, you can check it out over on pen2pixels.com. And hopefully I have more stuff to plug and I keep writing these articles, because writing is really, really hard to do.
Yeah, I don't recommend it.
So yeah, go give that a read if you're interested.
Sweet. Do you like writing, Huber?
When it's over, I do.
Okay.
Right? Writing is a classic, like, you hate your favorite thing vibe. It's like the Pokemon of of criticism. It's like, what's the worst way I could do this that feels the best? It's writing.
Yeah.
Hey, MinMax stuff this week. Trivia Tower Blitz. We tried a shorter episode of Trivia Tower, Huber. Some people dug it. A majority of people were like, just go back to the old format, you hacks. It was a little too fast for some people. But that is up with Jeff Grubb, so keep the feedback rolling if you enjoyed that shorter take on the Trivia Tower format there. Bonus Pod, the Patreon exclusive podcast. Haley McLean hosts the companion show to this podcast this week. I was on it. We talked about an unnatural love affair for Maximilian Dude, dear friend of Michael Huber. We talked about Hades 2, the technical test. That's all in Bonus Pod, the Patreon exclusive podcast. And then also the big thing is we ran down a ton of changes to Patreon. We swapped around some tiers. There's a public link on Patreon. If you check out that page, learn how we have shaken things up. The big thing is the Wall of Heroes tier. The formerly $100 tier where you can put any image you want on every MinMax video throughout the entire month. That was $100, and I was screaming from the rooftops, my God, this is the cheapest advertising you could ever get for your company or Instagram channel or whatever you want, or YouTube channel, podcast, whatever. And now we have permanently swapped that, so now it's at the $50 tier. So we are screaming even louder. If you want to put any image you want, any promotional image within reason, but we trust you, to go on every MinMax video for an entire month, which literally results in millions and millions of impressions on whatever image you want. It could be an inside joke, could be your pet, could be a happy birthday message to a loved one, could be your small business, YouTube channel, podcast, anything you want there. Someone asked like, hey, can I do like my gamer tag and find people to play games with? Like, that's the sweetest thing ever. Yeah, of course.
Great idea.
Yeah. We had 2 people jump up already, and it's my favorite, where one of them is a travel agent. I'm like, yeah, can I advertise my travel agency? He's like, yeah, absolutely. Another person runs a record shop in Australia. And they're like, hey, can I advertise my record shop? I was like, that is exactly what I'm looking for on Wall of Heroes. That sounds perfect. So again, that is only $50 now forever. And if you jump up to that $50 tier, the Wall of Heroes tier, and try it out before May starts, you can get this image on every video throughout May for MinMax. And if you jump up before the end of the month, we'll also send you a Steam code or an Xbox code. So thanks to everybody who's jumped up to try that. And thanks to everybody for getting us closer to that D&D goal, because we are within striking distance at this point. So shout out to everybody for getting us closer to that D&D goal if we hit that goal on Patreon. Also, on Monday, we had an interview go up, which is funky but good. It is a dual interview, kind of a one-on-one developer discussion with the localization director for Final Fantasy 16, Koji Fox over there, also a legend in the 14 community. So it's a discussion between Koji from Final Fantasy 16 and John Johannes from Hi-Fi Rush. Yeah, dear friend of Huber. Evil Within 2 director, of course. And so it's those two talking about what it's like making Western-oriented games within Japanese studios. So it's a geeky talk, but if you want to hear like what those two great minds would talk about together, and they've never met before, but they're fans of each other's games, you can check out that interview on MinMax's YouTube channel, or it's in the bonus podcast feed right next to Bonus Pod, all that fun stuff. Let's see, the next Deepest Dive, we're going to be revealing that in the not too distant future, so look alive for what that's going to be, everybody. Also, a thing that I've been maybe hinting at and teasing for a little while now, but it's big news to me, and I guess it is for the community in some small ways, but I bought a house, which means I'm going to be moving in the middle of May, which means we'll be getting a new MinMax studio. There's going to be a little bit of a transition period as we're kind of building things up over there, and I don't want to reveal it until hopefully it looks good. And so bear with us. So basically, coming from middle of May, there might be a little bit of a down period where we don't have that much in-person stuff, but once we get that up and running, I'm looking forward to having a lot of fun in the new studio. So yeah, thanks everybody in the Backstage Pass for being very nice about that. So we'll have some
very cool plans for that. That's going to be exciting when we got a new studio to reveal.
yeah, for sure. Oh, Leo, if you knew the amount of stress on this side.
It's wild concepts being thrown around.
You could not imagine how sweet it's going to be. Once we lock down where it is and how it's going to work. Other than that, it's going to be awesome. But we'll have a send off for the current studio here because it's been fun. Yeah, we'll talk, Leo, in the Monday meeting. I have some ideas of what we can do.
Why not now?
Okay, basically I was thinking we should have one more episode of the MinMax show recorded in the basement because we haven't done that many. It's been a while since we've done like a standard episode. I think that'd be a fun way to kind of send it off. I just get like you and Sarah or whoever else to swing by in Minneapolis here.
With the standard set of Ben Hansen surprise treats and gifts.
I'm sick of that.
Yeah, from the hole.
And I'm not into hiding things anymore for cheap surprises.
So none of that. Great.
No, yeah.
So an
absolutely.
expensive surprise.
An extreme,
Nice.
yeah, it's a house.
A
You
new
got to pay
car.
for it.
Everyone's a car.
All right, but that is it for this episode of the MinMax Show podcast. Thank you so much, everybody, for supporting the show, listening to the show. Huber, thank you so much. Is there anything you wanted to plug over there at Easy Allies? What's going on over there?
Podcast on Thursday.
Podcast on
About
Thursday.
it. Yep.
Also, let me shout out for you. I went on a long bike ride and listened to your spoiler cast with Maximilian Dude about Rebirth, and I was like, oh, it's so good. It's so fun
Out of
to hear
control.
him, just go in
Yeah.
deep on that stuff.
Yeah, half the time I didn't know what the hell he was saying.
I could tell. I was like, come on, Huber, keep up, man. You can do it. But he's just like
Yeah,
8 levels
good
deep on theories, which is really fun to listen to.
God.
So check that out over there at Easy Allies. All right, that is it for this episode of the podcast. So until next week, be good, have fun, let's go.